Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare. The bell rang, and the students began shouting, getting up from their seats, discussing the previous lesson, having fun, and packing their things for home. The girl, the class monitor, sitting at the second desk sighed quietly. Another bad day because of that idiot, who was called to the principal's office again. It was mind-boggling how he'd hung 3 boys from class 2B from the school toilet by nothing more than the rope from his pants, tying such a strong knot that the boys couldn't escape, hanging like dead cats for about half an hour before they were found and helped. "You've been called to the principal's office, come with me," she said, tying her long black hair into a pretty orange ribbon. The boy she addressed didn't respond. He merely obediently followed her. On the way to the principal's office, the students kept shouting and squealing at the girl's new style of clothing. "Akino-sama, your blouse suits you very well. The beauty of Kuo Academy is in great shape today. Sister, can I please have an autograph? Please." At this point, the girl named Akino finally stopped and, sighing, smiled sweetly, signing a white piece of paper. "Let's go," she said, turning to the culprit, who had been standing behind her while she was distracted. Hearing no response or action, Akino turned around and saw that the boy had disappeared. Rubbing her temples from an approaching headache, the girl wanted to scream loudly and spit, but in the circumstances of where she was, she couldn't ruin her image. She decided that the idiot would escape while she wasn't on duty. If anything, she would fry him with lightning. Preventatively. The boy, for his part, wasted no time. He slung his bag over his shoulder, walked out of the school through the gate, and not heading home as usual. Instead, he turned the other way and went to a small ramen shop. Upon entering, he noticed the interior, which hadn't changed a bit while he'd been gone. It was the same small room with chairs and tables, decorated entirely in orange and adorned with small fox toys. The owner, who was behind the counter, turned his attention to the boy and, putting down today's newspaper, began a conversation. "What did you come for?" "School's been crap, they called me to the principal's office again, so I ran away. I don't want to show up at home anymore, in case that girl comes to me again." "What did you call me for?" "I pulled a little prank on 3 assholes, though they complained. I give you a plus for the prank. A big minus for the disclosure." "So, the usual minus," the boy concluded. At this, the boy grinned and looked at the guy, who was also smiling. But what struck the boy was his face. "You shaved?" "Sage. Sensei, you're not so old, it turns out." Naruto sighed, those idiots. How many times had he told them he wasn't even 30? His beard made him look a little different, but he wasn't an old man. Dodging a flying saucepan, Uchiha Madara smiled and asked his sensei to make him some hot miso ramen. Uzumaki grumbled something about ungrateful students and got to work. 3 months had passed since the Red Dragon had dropped them on Earth. They flew at incredible speed into the city of Kuo, which was located in a country called Japan. Naruto grumbled for another week about how the dragon had dropped them who knows where and how he needed to fix the navigator. Until he started studying the information in this world and realized that it really was Earth and that technically the Red Dragon had sent them where they needed to go. Naruto just hadn't specified that they needed a different Earth. In defense of the shinobi, he hadn't even known there were multiple planets named Earth. Having settled in Kuo, the boys began looking for a way to return. This time, Naruto decided to take a different path. Instead of doing things on his own and getting upset by any kind of crap, Uzumaki decided to open a small ramen shop to explore the world he and Madara had entered. In this new dimension, he couldn't act as he pleased. There was this little red-eyed problem he was responsible for, and now he had to act more carefully. He shoved Madara into school. Firstly, to attract less attention. And secondly, it was simply rich. Uchiha Madara goes to school. For the first 3 days, Naruto laughed his ass off, seeing the little Uchiha's dejected face. Do you think Hashirama will be okay? Is this Sasuke of yours not too dazed? After some time, Naruto finally told him about himself and his story. It was a huge step in trust between Uzumaki and the little shinobi, who, for the first time, absorbed all the information like a surprised rabbit. Of course, Naruto left out some details about Madara himself, since there wasn't much point, and to say that a child destroyed the world with his ideas. Well, that would have been tactless. May Obito, who became the main villain of the whole story, forgive him. He tried to emphasize the Kuro Zetsu. Honestly. Who knows, Uchiha Sasuke is a real jerk. After we were sent back in time, he changed a lot and shoved his revolutionary ideas deep down, so let's believe in him and wish our wooden friend strength. So there you are. Akino shouted, bursting into the cafe, interrupting the surprised Naruto and Madara, who were now looking at her. Oh, sorry for yelling like that, the girl added, blushing. It's okay, it's okay. Naruto chuckled good-naturedly. Just because my little son messed up again, I'll make you some free tonkatsu ramen, especially for a beautiful lady. That's your son? But you're so young. Akino asked, surprised. That's a lie, Madara grumbled. Yes. Naruto said, dramatically putting his hand to his head. I adopted that little rascal when he was only 3 years old. He was dirty, smelly, and cried all the time. You can't imagine how much he himself from the slightest fright. Akino's eyes and smile widened exponentially. And on his 6th birthday. Well, screw it. Let's go to the principal, Madara shouted. Taking the surprised girl by the hand, he abruptly pulled them toward the exit, causing Akino's chest to bounce like a mountain goat on the hills. Sage, even Tsunade had smaller ones. Naruto murmured softly. When the couple left, Uzumaki sat down to an untouched meal that had just been prepared. Special tonkatsu ramen for a beautiful lady, the shinobi purred, itadakimasu. Taking his chopsticks, the shinobi was about to eat the food of the gods, when the door suddenly opened and a man of about 30 with purple eyes and multicolored hair, parted into blonde and black, walked in. What do you want, Azazel? Naruto grumbled, realizing that the special tonkatsu ramen would have to be put aside. Dear Naruto, it's been so long since we've seen each other, the man named Azazel, the governor and leader of the fallen angels, began, waving his arms good-naturedly. No, Naruto said. No what? I will not join your band of feathered hawks. But, at this point, Azazel pouted and was about to say something, but Naruto interrupted him. You'd better eat ramen. There's miso ramen, tonkatsu ramen, black ramen, ichiraki ramen, that's their signature dish, by the way. And it's only 1,000 yen. What? But you have a price tag on the counter that says 500. Azazel was indignant, forgetting why he'd even come. Yes, Naruto replied. What? The fallen angel asked. It's on the counter. At this point, Azazel cursed, watching Naruto, who was not at all ostentatiously examining his nails, completely ignoring the fallen angel's rather comically stern face. The hell with you, let's at least go fishing. I know you like it. Azazel, the last time I went fishing with you, you nearly drained the Sea of Japan, Naruto said calmly. You saw that salmon. I would never pass up the opportunity to catch one, no matter what it takes, the fallen angel defended himself firmly and clearly. That's reasonable. Wait for me by the exit, I'll be there in 5 minutes, Naruto said and ran off to pack his things. Outside, while Azazel waited for Naruto, he noticed a small house near the counter, where a black cat lay with a full bowl of cat food. The sign on the house read, Black Zetsu. Interesting, the fallen angel thought with a chuckle. Evening was approaching, and Madara was returning home after a difficult, tedious, irritating, incredibly infuriating, horrible conversation with the principal. Seriously, that man would suck your soul dry without batting an eye. But that was all in the past, the day was over, and now he could get some proper rest. His thought was immediately followed by wild screams and shouts, as well as the presence of the fallen angel. Why exactly when I thought about rest, sage? If this had happened in his world, before Naruto, Madara wouldn't have batted an eye, but the idiot sensei had taught him something besides super cool, awesome techniques. Compassion. As long as you have the power to help, you need to help. Issei Hayadu, a boy with brown eyes and brown hair in the uniform of God knows what, had been the happiest man alive until now. Yuma Amato had asked him out on a date. Beautiful, sweet, with big breasts. What could you dream of? Just when they were about to kiss, it turned out the girl wasn't Yuma at all, but some kind of creature with black wings in a very suit. Okay, so Issei was a pervert. He was a super pervert. Jiraiya would have adored him. But when someone was aiming a red stick at you that felt like it, for some reason he had a vivid imagination of what that beam could do to him, it would kill you, his perverted impulses diminished somewhat. Sorry, human, I'm truly sorry, she laughed at that point, so Issei had every right not to believe her, but you have to die. Dynamic entry. Madara shouted, sending the fallen angel headfirst into the nearest trash can. Satisfied that the fallen angel was incapacitated, the sight of her dangling, motionless legs proved it. The Uchiha remembered Naruto saying something was about to happen. Did he mean it? Okay, he'd deal with that later, now let's go home. Help. The shinobi heard a quiet, dying voice. Turning around, Madara saw Issei, who had finally been pierced by the red beam. His blood was spilling all over the road, flowing and flowing. Coming closer, the Uchiha crouched down and looked at the poor schoolboy. Issei Hayadu was his classmate. After examining the body, Madara realized there was nothing he could do. The boy was dying very quickly. The Uchiha sensed the presence of devils, clumsily hiding behind the bushes. He hoped they could help. He's gone, said the red-haired girl. Replied the other. Akino, help me with him. Himejima Akino, who had been watching her class's biggest troublemaker simply throw a powerful fallen angel into the trash, didn't immediately hear the question. Akino, the red-haired girl continued. Oh, sorry, President. Go ahead, of course. What happened today stayed on the girl's mind for the rest of the day. The next day, Madara woke up and went to school, surprisingly encountering Issei, who kept coming up to everyone and interrogating them about Yuma's existence. Madara noticed Hyodo running towards him, knowing exactly what to ask. He rolled his eyes. Hey, Madara. You were there last time. Do you remember that girl? Yuma Amato? You're my last hope. You mean the girl who asked you out? Yes. Did she also have long black hair and purple eyes? Yes. And of course, really, really big breasts. Yes. 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 Do you remember her? No, I have no idea who you're talking about, Issei deflated at this point. Nobody remembers Yuma. Amused by Issei's reaction, Madara began to analyze the situation. So, the pervert is alive and smells like the devil. Apparently those guys saved him after all. Considering the fact that devils hardly do charity, the boy must have had some kind of power. Some kind of sacred gear? Naruto-sensei, I told you this would be fun, Madara said to himself. It's good we didn't listen to that idiot fox about his trip to Kyoto. Throwing down his bag, the Uchiha grumbled, thinking about the fox and his stupid pheromones. Where does he even get them from? He's a bundle of chakra. Entering the school building, Madara didn't notice the pair of purple eyes that, since yesterday, had been watching him only. The next day, Madara got up early in the morning and, after washing himself, went back to this hell. School was something disgusting to him. You didn't get any useful knowledge there, you didn't get the chance to kick anyone's ass. Unless it was illegal. Where were the benefits? On the way to school, Uchiha noticed Issei, who was chatting pleasantly with some girl in a nun's uniform. Noticing Madara, Issei immediately started a conversation. Yo! Madara! Help me here, please, Uchiha continued walking, I beg you. If I walk confidently forward, you can pretend you haven't heard, I owe you a portion of miso ramen. Well, how can I not help my friend in need? What do you want? Madara approached the boys. Can you walk this girl to the church? I feel a little sick when I look at her, for some reason. Rolling his eyes at the devil who shouldn't go near sacred places, Uchiha nodded for the girl to follow him. Thank you, Stranger-san. You've really helped me out. Thank God for sending you to me, the girl said, crossing her hands in an amen and praying. My name is Madara, not Stranger-san. And mine is Asia. Asia Argento, the girl cried sweetly, jumping up and down so the Uchiha could hear her clearly. Their journey took about 15 minutes. Asia kept looking at the buildings and architecture of the city with great pleasure, which made Madara easily conclude that she wasn't from around here. Approaching a church, which looked very abandoned, the Uchiha was about to leave when he suddenly heard light footsteps. A young man, about 13 years old, emerged from the church. He had narrow white hair, like a cat's, eyes, and a very crazy smile. My sacred creature has finally arrived. How long I had to wait for you, the man said, rubbing his temples with his pistol. Sorry, Master Fried. I got here really quickly, thanks to that good man, Asia said, pointing at Madara. I don't care what kind of human drove you to this, next time you better come faster if you want to live, Fried laughed sarcastically. A human? Madara asked, currently standing with his back to the madman. He was about to leave, but the man's attitude toward Asia made him pause. What? Don't address the great exorcist with your back to him, you bastard! Fried shouted, aiming his pistol straight at the Uchiha. You know, I kill devils, I love killing them. Even though you're human, you acted like a devil, and for that, I'll have to kill you. Tears began to fall from the poor exorcist's face, and the smile, grew. Come and try, Madara said quietly, turning to Fried, but now with his maniacal smile, and 3 tomos swirled in the Uchiha's eyes, indicating he was ready. Huh? What, are you a vampire? Fried thought. Oh well, in my book, even a vampire is the devil. Madara-san, please don't. Go away, Asia whispered quietly, hoping to avoid another death. But it was too late. Shots rang out from the direction of a joyful Fried, causing poor little Asia to scream, but what was her surprise when the Uchiha easily dodged the flying bullets. You think your candy wrappers are capable of anything? The shinobi asked arrogantly. He didn't wait for an answer. Drawing his kunai, Madara dashed straight up to Fried, who only drew his lightsaber at the last moment to block. You bastard! Yes, how dare you, the exorcist shouted. Fried aimed a horizontal slash at the shinobi's head, but the latter, crouching, threw a kunai straight at his opponent's thigh. Madara, twisting in pain, immediately missed the next blow, aimed straight at his face, sending him crashing to the church steps. Who the hell are you? Numbing the pain in his leg, Fried sped up and ran toward Madara, frantically swinging his sword. The Uchiha dodged easily, and when the exorcist had opened up enough, he took the pistol from Madara's left pocket, braced his right foot against the embedded kunai, pushing it deeper, and, jumping back, turned around, firing 2 shots into his knee. The pain was excruciating, and the exorcist could no longer feel his leg and was unable to fight properly. Falling on his butt, clutching his leg with his hand, he could only scream and curse Madara. The Uchiha grabbed him by the hair, which immediately shut freed up, and slowly said, "Let this leg be my reminder that you shouldn't hurt this little girl." Madara then turned and, approaching the surprised Asia, wished her to take care of herself. She only nodded quickly, to which Uchiha smiled and headed for school. After walking a few blocks, Madara was stopped by a voice. A very familiar voice. "I saw everything." Uchiha turned around and saw Akino's stern face. "Who are you?" Feeling a headache coming on, he decided to play his trump card. "And you?" Which made the girl's eyes widen. That same evening. "Listen, Naruto, I wanted to tell you something," Azazel began as they returned from fishing. "My subordinate, Kokobile, is hanging around somewhere. A guy of the old school, wants to start a war. Maybe you can calm him down somehow before he makes too many mistakes." "Azazel, clean up your own mess. If you're such a useless leader that your subordinates start wars, then maybe it's time to retire?" Naruto drawled, approaching the cat booth. "I have everything. I'm just asking for backup," Azazel defended himself. "Listen, is it possible to fall because of indecision?" Naruto asked, putting down his beloved Kuro Zetsu. "I guess not. And to answer your question," Azazel said, rolling his eyes, "that's not why I became a fallen angel. I just like women. Can you imagine how hard it is to be an eternal virgin? I wanted freedom." Both Naruto and the cat looked at the fallen angel, who had scared off several potential clients with his screams, with a disapproving expression. "Ahem, I apologize." "Come on, my dear, I'll feed you," Naruto said, ignoring the poor Grigori leader. Suddenly, 2 people emerged from 2 different portals, one black mixed with red, and the other light, covered in glitter. Both were tall and powerful, one with red hair, and the other with blonde. "The leader of the demons is Surzex Lucifer, and the leader of the angels is Michael." "Naruto-sama, we need to talk," Surzex said. "Bad news is coming," Michael agreed. "Please. I just got back from fishing with him," Naruto grumbled, jabbing his finger at Azazel. "Give me a little break." Receiving sympathetic glances from the new arrivals and a questioning one from the fallen man, Naruto nodded and entered his cafe. "There's this organization called the Chaos Brigade. Does that mean anything to you?" Seeing Uzumaki Naruto's unperturbed face, Surzex cleared his throat awkwardly and continued, "It's a terrorist group led by the dragon Ouroboros, which is said to have powers equal to the Great Red." Hearing this last part, Naruto perked up and decided to interrupt the demon leader's monologue. "You mean that huge red lizard that lives in that strange place?" Although Surzex didn't understand that the strange place, the phrase, huge red lizard, was good proof that they were talking about the same thing. "Yes, let's continue." Michael picked up, making the shinobi slam their heads against the table. This conversation lasted for about an hour, Naruto only wanting to escape the thought of being drawn into the machinations of this world. He was so uninterested that at one point he almost fell asleep. Thank goodness Surzex's phone rang. He answered, of course, as it was his beloved sister Rias, which overjoyed the demon lord and nearly destroyed the entire cafe, which nearly killed Naruto. Fortunately, everything worked out, and after seeing the boys off, Uzumaki could finally get back to work. Taxes in Japan were exorbitant, even for someone like Uzumaki Naruto. Chaos Brigade, war, deaths, none of it mattered if he couldn't afford to dress Madara for school next year. The guy had to look his best. With a huge motivation to work, Naruto was about to turn the cafe sign to open when a voice came from behind him. "You were such a good owner, Naya. It's a shame I can't take you into my cat's paws." Turning around, the shinobi saw a girl of about 20 with black hair and brown eyes. She was dressed in a black kimono that did nothing to cover her assets. Man! Why does everyone in this world have such big breasts? Naruto asked, puzzled his interlocutor. Hearing this, the girl decided to play with her victim. Many fell upon seeing her body. She was sure that this man would be no exception. Do you like my breasts? The girl asked, playing with her breasts. It was amazing how much influence he wielded. During the time she was in cat form, this guy had attracted a huge number of powerful people. Her boss, the leader of the Cows Brigade, personally asked for him. And it was so simple. A man is a man. The main thing for him is to see a beautiful, luscious female body that will destroy him in an instant. In response, Naruto stepped closer, causing the girl to tense up, but she didn't do anything. Standing next to her ear, Uzumaki croaked sweetly. Do you like it thick, or do you prefer thin? The hellish world's most vulgar woman blushed at this question. Well, it all depends on my mood, of course, the cat began to chatter, confused by the question. Usually, I don't care, but the thick version is more. Before the girl could finish, Naruto interrupted her. Excellent, thick miso ramen noodles are already being prepared for you, beautiful miss. Uzumaki said and went to the kitchen to prepare the dish, leaving the girl blinking with a rebooted brain. Listen to me. I am the great cat Kuroka, and my task is to drag you to my boss, the girl began sternly, due to the fact that she had been so easily fooled. Yeah. You should have given me a different name. Kurozetsu, that name just brings bad luck. Naruto looked at Kuroka and realized the girl was no longer in the mood for jokes. Raising his hands in surrender, he laughed and continued, okay, take me to your boss. The surprised cat didn't immediately understand what her future hostage had said. He agreed so easily. Wait, you're going there without even a fight? I didn't even cast any illusions. That was mean, she was in good standing. She was only sent on important missions where she could easily die. Why the hell was this idiot agreeing so easily? It wasn't sportsmanlike. You wouldn't have succeeded anyway. Just hurry, or at this rate, my student will be going to school next year in nothing but underwear. And with holes in them. When Naruto had already left the cafe, waiting for the girl outside, she said one last thing before leaving. I have the urge to either pounce on him and destroy him, or pounce on him and spread my legs. I don't know which one I want more. Gur, the girl grumbled and followed him. With Madara. Why are you answering a question with a question? Akino defended herself. She was terrified that the Uchiha could know about her. To answer your question, I am human. Flesh and blood. But you, at this point, Akino swallowed a lump in her throat, you are definitely not the one who can judge me for standing up for an abandoned girl. Leaving what was left unsaid, Madara turned and walked towards the school, leaving Akino alone with her thoughts. One thing was for sure, he knew she was a devil. Did he know more? At school, Madara was sitting by the window during his last math lesson. The teacher was again explaining the previous topic, which many hadn't understood. Uchiha didn't even know what it was. Yawning constantly, he kept looking up at the ceiling or the window, gazing at the already setting sun. During one of his yawns, a piece of paper flew from the window and landed right in his mouth, causing the boy to cough like a sick person, attracting the attention of the entire class. The boys laughed and turned their attention to the teacher, and Madara, looking at the piece of paper, realized it was a message from Naruto saying he was away and didn't know when he'd be back. Cough, the shinobi coughed, when will you learn to use a phone, you idiot? When the bell rang for the last period, the girl's favorite, the number one handsome guy, Kiba Yuto, approached Issei. Hey, Issei. Rias, I asked you to come to the occult research club. Come with me, Yuto began sweetly and politely, ignoring his companion's piercing eyes. Yes, of course, handsome. Let's go see the great Rias-sama before your fangirls eat me, he said the last part very quietly. But Kiba wasn't in any particular hurry. He wanted to wait for Akino, who was also supposed to go with them. Seeing the boys waiting, the girl smiled and said, Era, we have a new member, dear Issei. It's so nice." At that moment, the boys' ears were steaming so much that the classroom felt like a sauna. "Forgive me, but I'm not feeling well today. Tell the president I can't come. I should go home." Kiba merely nodded, puzzled, and led the tearful Issei away, who was praying for his Wanisama's speedy recovery. Even though his prayers had given him a sharp headache, he kept stopping. Madara, who had heard everything perfectly well, didn't consider it a big deal and was about to leave the classroom. But Akino's hand stopped him. "Walk me home," the girl suddenly said. "No," the boy answered, as expected. After that, the grip tightened. Madara, realizing it was something important, decided not to play the jerk and silently agreed to the girl's request. After walking a few blocks in silence, the Uchiha began to suspect there was nothing serious in this. What did she even want? "When I was little, my mother was killed. Here it goes," Madara thought. "It was people from my clan. They killed my mother for her thoughts, and my father, as usual, was gone." "He never existed," Akino said, gritting her teeth in anger. Madara walked alongside, listening intently. "And then my clan expelled me and began hunting me down. I was 10, she laughed bitterly at this point, but even then I learned to survive, find food and shelter. But they continued to persecute me, and because of that, I couldn't live a normal life. For a year and a half, I lived with the thought that the moment I closed my eyes, would never wake up again." They approached the long staircase leading to the temple. Akino took a step forward. "A year and a half of fear for my life. I really didn't want to die. I wanted to live, simply because I deserved it," Madara thought for a moment. "And then, when my great-uncle had already caught up with me, Rias came. She made a deal with him and saved me. After that, I became a devil of the Gremory family. My life became better, and I don't regret anything. I found many friends and a purpose in life." As they climbed the stairs, Madara saw a large temple. Akino's temple, where she lived, completely alone. "This is who I am. This is my story." With that, Akino turned and walked into the temple, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts at the top. Naruto yawned when Kuroka once again threatened him with her fist, trying to stage a scene in which Uzumaki was going against his will, and he was terrified. Each time, she became more and more disappointed in this. Could he at least play along? This man was strong, very strong. She could feel it and even understood that he was trying to contain his strength, trying to remain incognito. But his aura easily gave him away. Thanks to her study of senjutsu, the girl was very good at determining the enemy's power level. Several times this had saved her life, when she realized her opponent was far superior. Now it was the same. So at first she was wary of Naruto, and soon she became a little afraid when the lords began visiting him as if he were their own home. She considered running away and telling the boss that the mission had failed, but for some reason, whether from Naruto's kind heart or the delicious food, she continued her mission. "How much longer?" poor Naruto complained for the third time in the last 5 minutes. "We're here," said the girl, simultaneously irritated and happy. "Thank goodness this mission is over," Kuroka continued, and immediately felt a sharp pain in her head. Naruto, chuckling at the girl's behavior and turning his attention to the empty hall where the supposed boss was, saw that right in the center, on a throne, sat the little lowly girl he'd met 3 months ago in the empty dimension with the red lizard. "Hey, Chibi. Long time no see." Naruto called out, smiling good-naturedly. "Chibi?" the girl asked thoughtfully. "Chibi?" Kuroka asked breathlessly. Descending from the throne, the girl walked straight up to Naruto, who was currently looking with interest at the Ouroboros dragon. "So, you're the dragon leading the terrorist organization that wants to destroy the entire world," the shinobi asked, and simultaneously, out of nowhere, he grabbed a ruler and began measuring the girl. Yes, no, the loli replied, paying a little attention to Naruto's concentration as he measured her height. My name is Ophis, and I am the Infinity Dragon, that's true. But I never wanted to destroy the world. My task is to drive the Great Red One from my home, the spatial rift between dimensions. Interesting. 137 centimeters. Naruto said and looked at Ophis, who was staring monotonously back at the shinobi, and then at Kuroka, who was simply blinking. Glancing at his watch, he realized it was time to move on to the final stage. So, Chibi Dragon, what did you want from me? Why do you call me Chibi? Ophis asked sincerely, not understanding whether it was an insult or not. To answer your question, I want you to join my organization. I call you Chibi because you're small, and regarding your offer, Naruto thought for a second, I think I'll decline. You think my height isn't enough? Why are you refusing? I'll give you strength. Ophis said, surprised. Why doesn't this person need strength? Yes, you're definitely too short, and yes, my own strength is enough. I'll stay out of this, maintaining neutrality, Naruto said and began looking for a way out. Well. I understand, Naruto. Then see you later, Ophis said, growing to 167 centimeters and, gradually becoming taller than Kuroka, opened a portal directly to the Uzumaki coffee shop. Wow, that's cool. Can you do that with all body parts? Naruto received a nod from Ophis, smirked and continued, then let's not say goodbye. Thanks for the portal, very convenient, by the way, the shinobi commented and disappeared into the darkness. Ophis, in turn, looked at the disappearing portal, and then at Kuroka with one single thought. Why isn't he saying goodbye to me? We just said goodbye, didn't we? Kuroka, who understood perfectly well what the bastard meant, decided to feign innocence with a shrug. Ophis accepted the answer and released the cat. It quickly opened its own portal, quietly muttering. Could you have refused to join the Cow's Brigade all this time? Qua. Returning to the cafe, Naruto didn't open it. Instead, he sighed heavily and ran to the church, sensing an abnormal chakra surge from one of his favorite protégés. He just couldn't live peacefully for just a few days without me, Uzumaki grumbled, approaching the church. Entering the church, Naruto found himself confronted by a group of Rias Grimoires demons, watching in shock as Madara Uchiha stood smack in the middle of a sea of blood from slain human exorcists. His entire body was covered in red liquid, his eyes glowing brightly, swirling and forming a new pattern, the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha screamed, sitting on his knees, and cried, hugging the dead body. No one nearby came to separate the little couple. Everyone looked on in shock and fear. Calm down, Naruto said quietly. Looking at Uzumaki's worried face, Madara gathered all his strength before passing out and said, "Sensei, this world, it's worse than the shinobi world." Picking up the boy bridal style, Naruto decided not to say anything to the group. There was enough crap. Who are you? The red-haired girl, the king of the devil group, Rias Grimoire, didn't think Uzumaki could just leave. Akino, who stood in complete shock from the horror of what she saw and concern for her mischievous classmate, pulled herself together and, before approaching Naruto, said to Rias, "Don't worry, President, he's a friend." Naruto, who had been silently watching the scene, saw the girl say goodbye to the group and, approaching him, ask him to go with them. To which Uzumaki nodded curtly. After the boys left, Issei, who was also at his mental breaking point, began begging Rias to bring the poor nun Asia back to life. Rias looked sadly at Issei in response, unsure what to do. "What a day," said the quiet and rarely speaking Nikomata Kaneko Tojo. A few hours before Naruto returned. "Let me clarify one thing," Akino began. Today during lunch break, 3 students who were admittedly considered well, not exactly good people, came with a sign that read, Uchiha Madara, first Hokage of Konoha, praise Madara. Does that mean anything to you? Never in her life had Akino, the reincarnated devil of the Gremory family, seen such a genuinely surprised face. Madara, sitting in the back of the class, nearly fell over in shock, as if struck by lightning. Why didn't you tell me they were naked? Akino rolled her eyes. Was that the reason for his surprise? Why? Akino said irritably, moving closer to the desk. Why what? Why naked? It gives the art a special flavor. Why did you do that? Akino shouted. Akino-chan, this was the first time Madara called Akino with a suffix, which made the girl blush, but she immediately hid it. Well, if she had known that she was the first person Madara ever called with the suffix chan, then perhaps her surprise would have known no bounds. How could you think that I, a pure person, a law-abiding citizen who never breaks the law, could fall so low? It hurts. This story has nothing to do with me and the story with the cats too. Okay, Akino weakly believed the boy, until the gears in her head suddenly started turning. Wait. The story with the cats. Was that you? I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, Akino-chan, I have to go. Time is not infinite. Madara Uchiha as the school's authority representative. Akino didn't have time to finish before Kiba interrupted their conversation. Akino-san, I'm sorry to interrupt your interesting conversation, but the president is waiting for us on urgent business. Akino glared at both of them. At one because she was interrupted, and at the other because he was Madara Uchiha. I'll deal with you later, the beautiful girl said, grabbing Kiba by the ear to somehow compensate for her anger, and dragged herself to the club. I probably went overboard with the cats. A tired Madara Uchiha said to himself, but, how funny. It's all due to that idiot sensei and his pranks. As Madara was leaving the school, he noticed Issei, Kiba, and a first-grade girl with white hair, brown eyes, and a very short stature, Kaneko Tojo, running together toward the church. How long have demons been praying to God? Madara thought, deciding to follow the group. Inside the church, the boys encountered Freed, who, for some strange reason, was limping on his left leg. Madara wasn't really paying attention to what the bastard was saying. All his attention was focused on the girl Asia, fastened to the altar, and the fallen angel he'd recently stuffed into the trash. Uchiha's heart sank when he realized the girl wasn't breathing. This couldn't be happening. Jumping down from the tree he'd been watching from, Uchiha darted toward the group, who were shocked to see him. Except Freed, who was grinning wildly. I knew it. I knew you'd come, you bastard, the boy shouted maniacally. I prepared a performance especially for you. And as if with a snap of his fingers, men dressed in black armor poured out of the church doors. There were about 50 of them, each with their own weapon. They surrounded Madara and the group and prepared to attack. Issei, the Uchiha began, ignoring Freed's laughter, is she alive? Hyodo turned to him, revealing his tear-stained face, his helplessness and insignificance. Madara no longer needed an answer. Gritting his teeth, he closed his eyes and began to recall all the moments he had spent with Asia. There were so few, but every second was bright and so pure. Why her? Why good and kind people? After that, he disappeared. Heads began to fall from the people, blood poured. Freed's aides couldn't keep up with the Uchiha's speed, they simply didn't notice him and died. A minute later, all 50 people were dead. Madara stood on a mountain of corpses, breathing heavily. Holding a bloody, sharpened kunai in one hand and the head of one of his enemies in the other. Freed, who had been watching this carnage, flushed with anger and, drawing his sword, rushed at the already exhausted Uchiha. At that very moment, his head fell right in front of the group of demons. Kaneko said, voicing everyone's thoughts as the shinobi slowly approached the fallen man, who stood confident and unwavering. You killed her? Madara asked, looking into his enemy's eyes. "My name is Rainier, human," the girl drawled sweetly, "and to answer your question, I not only killed her, I took the most precious thing from her. The entire meaning of her insignificant life is in my hands." At that moment, the girl laughed and, flapping her wings, flew into battle. Throwing away the broken kunai, the Uchiha dodged the fallen man's first lunge, then the second, then the third. No one understood why he didn't attack back. "Why are you standing there?" the girl screamed. "Why did you kill her?" "What did she do?" the shinobi demanded. "Because I wanted to." The embittered girl said. "What difference does it make to you? Attack." By this time, Akino and Rias had arrived, having dealt with the other fallen. Akino, who had just scolded the Uchiha earlier that day, stood and stared in shock at the blood-soaked body. "You killed her just like that?" Madara asked quietly. "What do you want, bastard? Who is she to you anyway?" the fallen angel screamed and readied his red beam of light. Throwing it, Rainier watched in shock as the shinobi caught the beam and, with a flick of his wrist, fired it back, plunging it straight into her stomach. What? Blood gushed from her mouth. "I noticed you like to fly." The Uchiha slowly approached the fallen angel, who was immobilized by pain. "You took a girl's life, the most precious thing she had. In return, I will take the most precious thing from you." Approaching from behind, Madara firmly grabbed Rainier's wings and ripped them out with all his strength, causing the girl to scream in agony and pain. She hated those wings, prayed for them to disappear. It hurt to laugh, but she smiled at how the god had granted her wish. Off to the side, Akino instinctively touched her shoulders, shuddering. Throwing her wings aside, Madara walked over to Asia's dead body, sat down in front of it, and began to shout, sending bitter tears down the poor girl's face. "Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you're having a good time during the holidays. Are you awake?" Naruto asked the sleepy boy. "Happens, kid?" "You're welcome," Madara agreed. "I don't even know what came over me. Crying is normal. Killing like a walking Armageddon? In general, too, but watch your sanity. It's not far to the loony bin this way." Naruto poured a glass of cold water and handed it to Madara. "By the way, good news. The girl is alive. She was made into a devil with the help of these evil figurines. Now she's in the red-haired brat's gang." At that moment, Uchiha exhaled. He didn't care who Asia was now, human, devil, or angel. The main thing was that she was alive. He was about to go back to bed when suddenly there was a loud slam in the middle of the room and a small fox appeared on its hind legs. "Long time no see, Naruto, you little bastard." "Yo," Naruto nodded weakly. "Bastard." A tick appeared on Madara's forehead. "So, Kurama, what's the news?" Uzumaki asked, sitting down in one of the chairs. The fox sighed, as if he had been very tired for the past week. "After gathering information, I realized that we need to get to the Shinto gods. Only they have a way to return us to the elemental nations. Does this sound like the final gates of hell? Is it difficult?" Naruto asked. "Yes and no. The gods in this world, Naruto, are a little different from our usual understanding. They are not just powerful beings with a deep history, who once did something and blah blah blah. They are real gods. They have millions of years of life, a ton of worshippers who pray to them or something like that. They're assholes and very strong." "Well, our worlds are similar here," Uzumaki commented cheerfully. "Okay, where should we go to find these gods?" "Kyoto. There's a woman there, very nice and gallant." At this point Kurama blushed. "She has such great," he blushed even more, "connections." "Connections?" The fox went into a trance. "Hey! Kurama. Yes. My apologies. Anyway, as I was saying, she has a direct connection with this Shinto pantheon. She's something of a postman between her people and the gods. Although I honestly still don't get it. Great, then next stop is Kyoto. Madara, pack your things, said Naruto, leaving the room. Sensei, listen, I can't go. I have school. The Uchiha said quietly, but Naruto's hearing was always excellent, so the shinobi heard everything and, in shock, hit his head on the wall and fell down the stairs. What, excuse me, came the cries of the poor Uzumaki, with a bump on his head. Man, what happened to you? The last time I saw you, you nearly destroyed the city at the mere thought of going to school. And now, a quiet voice, a love of education. What, are you wearing a skirt under the blanket or something, brat? Kurama laughed. Until he got hit in the face with a frying pan, which also sent him tumbling down the stairs, straight towards Naruto. Where the hell did I get a frying pan? The Uchiha asked himself hopelessly. The streets of Kyoto were always known for their comfort and tranquility. In the evenings, people came out to stroll, dance at festivals, buy various sweets, and have a joyful evening. Naruto and Kurama, in the seal, strolled along those same streets, decorated with small one-story houses, various lighting fixtures that stretched along their entire length, and were incredibly diverse and beautiful. Life was wonderful. As Naruto walked, he remembered those days in Konoha, when he was still 13, before that hung over the world. Those days when he was considered a weak idiot. Sasuke wasn't a huge asshole, he still was, just not as much. Kakashi, a dying inside, asshole sensei. Sakura, well, Sakura's personality hadn't changed much. Of course, the whole village hated him. But now, going back in time, he would gladly hug every hater and just talk to them. It was so simple. Let's not say, going back to the past, Kurama said, once was enough for me. Sorry, Kurama, Naruto laughed cheerfully. As they walked, Naruto noticed peculiar glances that followed him along the way. He was clearly being watched. True, it was very stupid, and any enemy in his place would have killed them, just for their poor preparation. Luckily, he was a good guy. Naruto also sensed a huge accumulation of chakra in this city. A little different from his own, but at least something. Perhaps they could find a common language with this postman. What did you say the name of the leader of this place is? Naruto asked, approaching a large, ancient building, decorated in the style of Japanese medieval times. Yasaka. Lady Yasaka, Kurama answered. Before Naruto could speak, creatures jumped out of the bushes, corners of buildings, and other hidden structures, surrounding the shinobi. Who are you? For what purpose? One of them spoke. Guys, I'm not an evil villain. Naruto raised his hands in surrender and smiled sweetly. I came to see Lady Yasaka on one matter. That's all. What do you want from our leader? Answer. Another one shouted. Quiet, you can put your weapons away, a female voice was heard. Naruto looked forward, and with each step the woman took, his mouth dropped wider. Before him stood a tall, busty beauty, with brown eyes and light hair, like Naruto's own, braided in a ponytail. Her smile was persistent and very sweet. Her white skin was completely pure and lovely. She was dressed in a beautiful long yellow dress that reached the floor, practically exposing her breasts. Because of this, many on the street fainted from such magical nakedness. When the distance between them was a couple of meters, Naruto's face began to glow from the heat, and his brain was dulled to death. Uzumaki-san? Naruto, coming out of his brief trance, could only nod like an 8-year-old schoolboy, causing the girl in front of him to laugh sweetly. You must be Yasaka, right? And by the way, you can just call me Naruto. The shinobi, having fully regained his composure, returned to the world. That's right, my name is Yasaka, and I am the leader of the Yukai of Kyoto. I know your good friend's request, the woman said, looking meaningfully at Uzumaki's stomach. Let's go inside, I'll treat you to some of my tea. Turning back, the girl walked up the steps, her chest bouncing awkwardly with each step. Now I understand what kind of connections you were talking about, Kurama, Naruto said cheerfully, following right behind the woman. Uchiha-san, Kiba began politely, I was sent for you to take you to the occult research club. Why? No one told me that. The boy's smile didn't waver. Good. They left the classroom. Classes had ended by then. Madara noticed Akino following them. Closing the distance, she quietly called out to the Uchiha, so that Kiba, who was walking slightly ahead, wouldn't hear her. Don't worry, I won't let anyone hurt you, the girl continued, seeing Madara's surprised expression. Just be dignified and don't get upset. Everything will be fine, she said nothing more. Inside the building, where the shinobi supposed the so-called club was, the smell of dampness filled the air and darkness stretched out. He even wanted to smile, devils and their atmosphere. And Naruto-sensei told me not to be stereotypical. And here I am, the Uchiha commented. They were already waiting in the main room. Team Redhead, which included Issei, though he wasn't there for some reason, Kiba, Akino, Kaneko, and the new member Asia, as well as the student council chairman's team, Madara called them flies, always making his life miserable. Sona.ori, the local boss and, as Madara had long since realized, a devil. Tsubaki, the vice chairwoman, was apparently like Akino, a deputy boss or something like that. Tsubasa, Tomo, Momo, Rhea, and Saji were also in her clan. Madara didn't know them. Although he often encountered them, whenever he was called upon to scold him for one of his pranks. Hello, Uchiha-san, said the redhead, Ria Scremery. She sat at the table, her petite appearance personifying inner strength and destruction, as if angering such a person wouldn't be the best idea. Madara didn't care, though. Hello. First of all, I wanted to thank you for your invaluable contribution to defeating the fallen angel, Rainier. Without you, no one knows what would have happened, Ria said, her tone businesslike. Madara nodded. But the reason we summoned you is different, the girl said, crossing her legs and looking the shinobi straight in the eye. Uchiha-san, who are you? In response, Madara only smiled. I'm a human. A human? In the flesh. Each of the boys looked at each other as if Madara was talking nonsense. Uchiha-san, where did you get such abilities then? Sona asked, adjusting her glasses. A normal person can't do that. I'm a sorcerer. A sorcerer? Madara laughed. Akino rolled her eyes. You may not quite understand, Sona continued, but we are the Gremory and Citri families. Aren't you? Ora, the Uchiha interrupted. Ori, the girl corrected. And that's a pseudonym, Madara nodded politely. Clearing her throat, she continued, so, the Gremory and Citri families control Koa's territories, so we absolutely need to know who or what you are. Understand correctly, after the Great War. I know. The Great War. Yes, the war between the three great factions. No, what was it? The Second World War? Akino asked. Yes. That's right. It would have been better if she had kept quiet. No, I'm talking about the war between angels, demons, and fallen, Sona said, adjusting her glasses. You see, everyone here, except you, of course, is a devil. Immediately, as if on cue, small, scary black wings appeared on each person. Seeing the shinobi's bored expression, the girl continued, but I see you're not particularly surprised by this information. Let's get straight to the point. The atmosphere here is a little scary, Madara said. It's simple, I need your goals and abilities, and the same with your blonde friend. My goals? Not particularly interesting, but I'm not going to interfere with you. Abilities? I won't tell you. Naruto-sensei's goals are the same, but what about abilities? It's better for you and me not to know what that bastard can do, Madara said brazenly, causing everyone to exchange shocked glances, and Akino felt a pain in her head again. If that's all, then I'm leaving. Uchiha-san, Rias added finally, if you don't cooperate, we'll have to eliminate you and your sensei. I hope you understand. Sensei was right, negotiations, politics are terrible. With these words Madara left. With Naruto. Uzumaki-san, now that we're in a more pleasant environment, we can talk business. Naruto sat on a cushion in the center of the small hall of Yasaka's mansion. Looking around, he noticed the woman's strong love for traditional Japanese culture. Various kunai, shuriken, katanas. The room was simply filled with weapons. Well, he was sure they would find common ground. Yes, I was hoping the Shintoites could help me get home. And you are the only one who can contact them. Good. Yasaka clasped her palms together and began concentrating her chakra. A second later, a blue flame ignited in the center between them, and a woman emerged. Naruto immediately felt a surge of powerful energy, the likes of which he hadn't encountered in a long time. This wasn't the strongest opponent. Perhaps not even in the top 10. But it was very refreshing. Lady Amaterasu, I greet you, Yasaka said and bowed. Hello, Yasaka. Why did you call me? The woman asked. Before you, Lady Amaterasu, is a man, Naruto Uzumaki. He came to us from the elemental nations and is now searching for a way home. Only you can help him. Why should I? The woman asked haughtily. The gods are merciful, Naruto intervened for the first time. The goddess immediately laughed. The gods, boy, that's what gods are for. They decide what to do and what not to do. Even in this world, the gods have a philosophy of, a stick up my ass, I can do anything, Naruto frowned. The goddess merely raised an eyebrow at such rudeness. This boy, he didn't know the rules, or were the rules not written for him? This chakra, Amaterasu suddenly began, it's exactly like the chakra of those villains who terrorize my territories. I can feel it inside you. Who are you? Which villains? Naruto asked. He hoped Madara hadn't gotten into trouble again. They were wearing black cloaks with red clouds. Naruto nearly choked upon hearing this. The Kurama in his stomach did too. You thought about that too? Naruto asked. Spreads like a plague, through worlds. Naruto, though completely shocked, tried not to show it. An interesting idea had occurred to him, one that might help them return home. Okay, madam, let's do it this way. I banish your villains, you give me a portal to my world. A deal? Although the goddess wanted to scold Naruto for such an informal conversation, she decided it wasn't a bad deal. Are you at least strong? They were strong. Very, Yasaka added. Don't worry, girls, I'm very strong too. Give me the coordinates, goddess. Either his rudeness lured her in, or the problem with the villains was very serious, but Amaterasu decided to put the question of upbringing aside and said that they were last seen in northern Kyoto. Well, Kurama, let's go check, maybe Akatsuki has been reborn again. Let's go, the fox shouted. Thank you to those who read and wait. Even after such a long absence. It's worth it. You know, it's strange. This is the first time I've felt real chakra. Same Hade, she looks familiar. It's unlikely, fish face, there's anyone here like us, muttered the guy with tongues on his hands, although I could show him real art. At the nickname, fish face, Kisame snorted and tightened his grip on his sword. Those few days with Deidara had gotten to him more than all the battles with that idiotic Jounin in green spandex. At least he'd been strong. He honestly couldn't understand how Sasori tolerated that bomb-wielding blonde. He wanted to cut him down within the first few minutes of waking up in this world. After all, Pain-sama had been very tactful in pairing up the group. Kisame realized it only now. But he still couldn't get over how they'd ended up here. He remembered the moment his own sharks had eaten him in the makeshift pool. It had hurt. Kisame rubbed his stomach, wincing. The signs of phantom pain were still present. What, Fishman? Did breakfast go wrong? Deidara asked sarcastically, until it suddenly dawned on him, oh, right, we don't need breakfast. Another important fact. They were resurrected. For the first few days, this had angered Kisame to no end. He hated being someone's puppet. In any world, the former shinobi of the Hidden Mist knew only two people who could bring people back from the dead. Orochimaru and Kabuto. He didn't understand why, but they had complete control over their bodies, and Kisame didn't sense the presence of another will at all. This upset him. He didn't like uncertainty. He was also very worried by the fact that the strong chakra he had sensed had suddenly disappeared. This led to two directions: either he was imagining it, or they should run. They didn't notice a tree branch move next to them. Any guesses as to what they're doing here? Kurama's stomach merely shrugged in response. I have a distinct feeling they don't even understand how or why they ended up here, the fox commented. Naruto sighed. It was comical that even in another world, Akatsuki was with him. Do you think we should seal them now? Naruto asked. Kurama remained silent. Naruto didn't really need the fox's answer. The appearance of new shinobi in this world meant another opportunity to return home. He needed to keep an eye on them. They weren't threatening him at all anyway. With Madara. It was surprisingly funny how, after his little performance, they started keeping an eye on him. They were keeping an eye on him terribly. On one hand, the Uchiha understood them, on the other, it was some kind of unfair favoritism, considering how much wickedness there was in this city, people who didn't have such neutral views as he did. Okay, he was in a good mood, he wouldn't mock. Okay, no, he was in a good mood, he would mock. Only Issei. The guy was a terrible tactician. He was hiding clumsily in his own locker, it was pathetic. Casually walking to the locker, Madara pulled out a bottle of water, then, looking around, made a few gestures so that the water would be his. He slid it in a thin stream, right up to Issei's collar. The poor boy couldn't understand why Madara was standing there for so long. Having fixed the water directly above Issei's head, Madara stepped back, controlling the chakra in his hand. Once he was a good distance away, he clapped his hands and immediately heard delightful squeals from the cold water's effect. Naruto would have said badly, boring and using jutsu. He criticized jutsu, they needed to be more skillful. Madara didn't care, he was having fun. He wanted to go to the demon club. Don't ask why. He didn't know the reason. Certainly not because of the beautiful black-haired girl. Absolutely not. As he approached, he heard screams inside. He noticed a general commotion, Ryusa's retinue, without Issei and Kiba, and some new characters. In the middle of the group, a tall, handsome young man in his 20s with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes sat on the couch. He seemed to be the leader of their puppy convoy. At least, the fact that he was so vulgarly pressing himself against Ryus was evidence of that. He glanced at the other corner, where there were many unfamiliar women. Madara tried to sense their emotions and catch their expressions. Mostly, it was fear. Although some had lust. Strange people. Madara glanced at Akino. He immediately frowned when he saw his friend, who was angry, looking at the face of the ghoul pressing himself against Ryus. Now was the time to reveal himself. Hello everyone. Madara began sweetly, smiling as if his future self had never wanted to plunge the world into eternal sleep. Where did he get that from? Who are you, a bastard? The same guy asked him. Their eyes met, the boy grinned sarcastically while simultaneously squeezing Ryusa's breast, who was very unhappy at the moment. Madara didn't answer. He looked at Akino, who looked back at him. No longer with malice, but rather with sadness. For some reason, this bothered the Uchiha greatly. He didn't want her to be upset. Madara decided to approach her closer, but the guy with the pole in his ass, the Uchiha had already given him a pleasant nickname, was not very pleased with being ignored. "Hey, brat, how dare you ignore the great riser?" Anger seeped through the room, Madara could feel it. But he didn't feel any threat from this riser. Well, he decided to keep playing. After the second time, Riser received no response from the stranger, his body filled with heat, his face turned red. No one had ever ignored him so blatantly. An ordinary person, of all creatures. Then this person is not worth living. Riser's principles. Fair and honest. Riser gathered his energy, compressed a bright red flame, and sent it in a thin line straight at the Uchiha's face. It was neat. Especially for Riser. No one but Madara would be harmed. It was powerful, the energy concentrated in his palms could destroy this entire building. He would pay for it later. But what happened next shocked not only Riser and his sense of self-importance, but everyone gathered in the room. A powerful, fast-moving flame was sent flying in another direction with a snap of his fingers, as if it were an annoying fly. Amazingly, the flame landed directly on an extinguished candle, igniting it without causing any damage. Before the group could even realize the candle had caught fire, Madara was immediately behind Riser and holding a kunai to his throat. "You shouldn't attack someone who can kill you, brat." The blow was weak, more for show. Madara showed Riser, "I can kill you any second I want." "You little worm," this was too much humiliation for the arrogant devil phoenix. Such a thing is not forgiven. "Gentlemen, I beg you," a sturdy female voice was heard from the corner of the room. Madara immediately tensed. He hadn't felt her. "Good afternoon. My name is Graphia Lucifuge. I will be your guide to the upcoming wedding of Rias and Riser-sama." "Hello, Lady Graphia," the fiery brat showed off. "A wedding?" The Uchiha didn't quite understand what was going on. "Yes, Madara-sama," the first queen replied, "this is a wedding pact between families highly respected in our line. I would be very grateful if you would not interfere." From the way Madara took this phrase, it immediately became clear that the woman was not asking, but demanding. Looking at Rias, Uchiha noticed the tears in her eyes, the sadness and sorrow that arose from the upcoming event. "But she doesn't want to marry that feathered idiot," Madara summarized his observations. "Listen, human," Riser didn't finish, as he was stopped by Graphia's gesture. "Well, it's neither your business nor mine to deal with the affairs of other families." Madara wanted to applaud her diplomacy, but still, if Rias doesn't want to, she can break the pact of future marriage through a fight in a rating game or a one-on-one battle. What? Lady Graphia, is such a thing even possible? Riser was outraged, this was something he'd never heard before. "Unfortunately, yes, Riser-sama. You see, we, like humans and angels, have our own code of laws and rights, which must be observed in the name of maintaining stability." "Yes, of course, I know." Riser was a high-ranking demon, his basic education at elite schools, but let me ask you a question. I don't remember the law you mentioned earlier. When was it adopted? Graphia smiled and glanced lightly at Rias. "Yesterday." Issei, who had been silent until then, listening intently to all the rules and regulations, heard only one thing: hope. "President, let's choose a rating game, we can win." "I don't know, Issei-kun, Riser is a strong opponent. I've never participated in such games, and he's the absolute winner in his category. The only chance we have is if Madara-san agrees." Madara laughed inside at the hypocrisy of the demons, who had recently threatened to eliminate him. He still wouldn't mind kicking the fire demon's ass. "Unfortunately, Madara-sama has no right to participate in your dispute." Graphia looked sadly at Rias, thinking to herself what an idiot Surzex was, passing the law without thinking about the correct details. Well, friends, Madara realized he had no longer any volition or legal obligation to stay here. Have a good evening, everyone, he said, waving his hand and heading for the exit. Akino, who exchanged a glance with Rias, followed him a second later. Madara, the cute devil, ran up, catching up with the Uchiha boy. Yes? Could you help me with something? What? Help me with my training. What? With Naruto. I take it there was no point in following you, Kurama summarized. Naruto watched as both missing Nin arrived at the old abandoned temple where they were currently resting. They didn't need rest at all. They were zombies. You know, Fishhead, Deidara began, I have murderous thoughts in my head. Like I have to show my art to the people I see in my head. So you have that too. There are 3 of them. One with red hair, one with white, and the third with black and white. Kisame chuckled, they were thinking about the same people. And I don't sense their presence here. Only one not far from here. The other 2 are somewhere really far away. Deidara was stupid, but he surprised Naruto with his sensory abilities. Where is that? Interestingly, Kisame couldn't sense anything. Somewhere south of here. I'll have to run. Let's go then. Hey, what about rest, Fishhead? The workday is over, he confirmed his thought by pointing to his hand, where the non-existent makeshift watch was. Kisame, Naruto, Kurama sighed. What an idiot Deidara was. In Kuo, Azazel was sitting on the bridge, fishing alone. Naruto's ramen shop was closed. The bastard had gone off somewhere. So the poor fallen angel was left to fish alone. Sigh. Ninja art, water dragon. Before Azazel could come to his senses, a huge lizard mother appeared from the small river, and for some reason he felt like it wasn't the real fish he'd caught. The dragon flew straight at him. The fallen one had good strength and agility, so he dodged it, albeit with some difficulty. The fishing rod only broke. He was very unhappy about this. 2 villains in black suits with red clouds stood before him. Their eyes were dark, like zombies. I take it it's him. That's right, Fishman. Time to show him my art. Deidara was about to perform hand seals when they were stopped. Sorry, gentlemen. I understand, of course, I've upset many. But could you tell me the reason why you want me dead? Both shinobi exchanged glances and simply shrugged. Sorry, Grandpa, Deidara began, just voices in my head. Exactly the same. I see. Naruto was still sitting in ambush and honestly, he was already tired of it. Apparently, the guys were programmed to kill Azazel. Neither of them knew why. There was no point in waiting any longer. I think it's time to shine, Kurama. Wait, we need to see what Azazel can do, we've never, but Naruto wasn't listening anymore, he jumped down from the tree he was hiding in and ran towards the group. Bastard! Hey, Fishman, pretty boy, hello. Naruto ran slowly, preparing to attack. His chakra was still hidden, but creating a shadow clone would immediately give himself away. So, getting closer, he shouted, simultaneously performing hand seals. What? Both zombies only had time to look around before Naruto and his clone jumped on them with dynamic entry, sending them both flying forward. But it wasn't as good as Uzumaki expected. Naruto? Hey, pervert, how's the fishing? Azazel frowned at the nickname but ignored it. Yeah, you know, those 2 scared all the fish away. Oh, how annoying. What kind of freak did that? Deidara whimpered in pain, not noticing that such a blow should have, at a minimum, torn his zombie body to pieces. But Kisame noticed. He decided not to hesitate and immediately pounced on his opponent with Samahata. But a second later, he abruptly stopped. Ninetales? Hello, shark. Long time no see, Naruto immediately jumped on the former swordsman of the mist. You're not reborn. As you can see, in the flesh. Do you know what we're doing here? They had a brief conversation, but they continued to exchange blows. I have no idea. Frankly, I'm a guest here myself. Not like you, but still. What's wrong with the shinobi world? Naruto didn't answer this question, only intensifying his blow. You noticed, right, Kurama? They're much stronger than their life-sized counterparts. The Kyuubi watched the fight, and the ease with which Kisame parried the blows was astounding. Someone perfected the Edo technique. Naruto needs to deal with the bomber. Why? He posed less of a threat to Uzumaki. Before any of you idiots figure out that a boy-girl can literally launch a nuclear bomb on themselves, fall apart, reassemble, and then launch it again, then yes, I'd advise you to hurry. Looks like you're right, Databe. Naruto shouted, gathering the fox's chakra in his fist, sending Kisame flying several blocks away. Deidara collapsed in the stones from the very first blow. Although he had a desire to kill his grandfather, he wasn't the least bit interested in the one the fishman was currently fighting. Although he could, of course, show him his skills. By the way, he could destroy this whole world. If his logic was correct, then he didn't have time to finish before he was sent flying into the sky by a powerful uppercut. Regrouping, he saw him flying parallel to him. Uzumaki Naruto. Of all people. Hello. What the hell? You? His hands were already chewing on the clay, but it was too late. Uzumaki art, sealing technique. Don't you dare. I haven't shown my creation yet. If Naruto hadn't known about their new power, Deidara would have easily escaped. But the abnormal level of chakra Uzumaki had poured into the technique was so great that even for a strengthened zombie it was the end. No, Deidara screamed like a girl, plunging into darkness. The first one is finished. There's still one left. Elsewhere. So, Deidara is dead, a rough voice said in the darkness, watching as the light-colored Missingnin's piece fell across the chessboard. Don't worry, we still have a large army to eliminate the leaders. Although the appearance of Uzumaki Naruto in the equation greatly disrupts our plans. It's not for nothing that they call him the #1 most unpredictable ninja. Uzumaki Naruto, he's strong, the dark voice was confident. Do you think I can defeat him? After a moment of silence, another voice answered. I'm sure you can, Trihexa-san. You can do anything. Hearing this, the creature in the darkness smiled, baring its leonine, sharp teeth. He would have his revenge, this time he would do everything differently. Kisame narrowed his eyes, watching as Naruto easily dispatched his now former partner. It happened so quickly that a chill ran through the dead shinobi of the mist. A second later, Uzumaki stood right in front of him. You've grown stronger, Gaki. Kisame remembered the boy as a young boy. When he and Itachi came to him and the toad Sannin. The boy had been small, weak. Kisame remembered threatening to cut off his legs. He'd been so pathetic. But now, before him stood a shinobi god who could deal with a Kage-level ninja in a second. And that thrilled him. Kisame, you shouldn't have been born again, the swordsman smiled. He would try to put up a good fight. With Madara. Madara watched Akino run her 6th lap of the stadium. While Riasa's entourage trained together, the queen was with the Uchiha at a personal request. Akino had good magical stats. Lightning was her element. But her stamina was a bit shaky, needless to say, she was practically out of breath by the 7th lap. They had 2 weeks, and Madara had decided to focus on her physical training. In the end, he didn't understand anything about their magic anyway. And besides, this was a great opportunity to pay Akino back for the queen constantly taking him to the headmaster. Time to settle the score. Hurry. Poor Akino, he'll be merciless. Kisame was lying. With Naruto. Even with his Edo stats, he was still completely exhausted. It turns out even Edo Tensei needed rest. Tell me, what's your goal? What does your brain demand of you, Kisame? The gaki wasn't so simple anymore. He was a killer, and his voice matched that. Kisame grunted, we have murder programmed into our heads. One is tall with red hair, the second is blonde, and the third, he pointed at Azazel, this one, who, in turn, was finishing his strawberry milkshake. Hey, you don't have to point. It's valuable, Uzumaki smiled. A second later, Kisame was sealed. He didn't have good thoughts about the swordsman of the mist. After all, he'd wanted to kill him for a long time. It wasn't fair. So, what do we have? Red is probably Surzex, white is Michael, and you. He paused because of the annoying sound of the straw. This usually happens when the drink is gone, but you're still trying to drink it. Azazel, throw away that cocktail. It's delicious, the fallen one drawled slowly, smacking his lips. Want to try it? Come on. Ah, it's already finished, the leader of the fallen didn't look like he was sorry. You're an asshole, Azazel. You should have sat in the tree and watched Samahata rip your guts out. Naruto was heading back to Kyoto. There, he would continue his investigation. Hey! Come on, where are you going? I was just kidding. What's Samahata? Is that one of your jujitsu moves? The leader of the fallen warriors rushed after him. Naruto almost croaked at what he heard. Let me buy you a new one. Naruto didn't answer, he had pride. Can I come with you? No. Fine. So they both headed to Yasaka. With Madara. I can't take it anymore, Akino lay in the stadium, her heart pounding. It was the second day of their training. The first day, she'd just been running. 10 hours of running. How she hated the Uchiha, who'd gotten himself a lawn chair from somewhere, bought a margarita, and kept goading her to go faster. And now she was running again, on her 8th lap, and she felt like she couldn't take it anymore. The aftermath of yesterday had severely limited her abilities. So she gave in. Madara walked up to her and looked her down, sipping his new drink through a straw. A complete lack of willpower, Akino, the boy tisk-tisked like an old man. She didn't care, honestly. You know, he crouched down next to her face, whether you're human or demon, we all only reach our full potential under stress. What's that supposed to mean? I'm already incredibly stressed. No, Madara paused, you misunderstood, stressed to the point of threatening your life. Huh? Madara pulled out a kunai. Akino immediately stood up and started running. Huh? Madara repeated. The kunai flew, heading straight for the ass of the great Queen Rias. Your mother. Another split second, but Akino jumped deftly, avoiding the same fate. You idiot, cretin, what are you doing? Akino, be quiet, there are people here, Madara smiled, throwing another kunai. Idiot. Ouch. The Uchiha snorted, missing again, and the fact that you're throwing your shuriken around here shouldn't bother people. Idiot, stop it. I'm for the idea, they support me. Let's test the dodges. Madara narrowed his eyes and aimed a little higher, towards the chest. What idea? Screams were heard everywhere, you sadist. How ironic, the Uchiha smiled, aiming again, now the shinobi training begins. With Naruto. Azazel, what the hell are you following me for? They were currently standing at the entrance to the city, and Uzumaki was really fed up with that old feathered pervert. They'd wasted a ton of time getting there, only because Azazel kept slowing them down. He needed to eat, take a leak, or go to the bathhouse. What the hell bathhouse? You're an anomaly, Naruto Uzumaki. You're not from around here. That's for sure, he continued, pacing around the shinobi, constantly examining them through a magnifying glass. Azazel. Where did you get a magnifying glass? The fallen angel smiled, much to Uzumaki's disappointment. And I, he said proudly, am a researcher. A scientist. I'm going to study you. Yes, I knew one researcher. He also wanted to understand everything in the world, Naruto replied dryly. That's wonderful. Azazel raised his hands, listening to his like-minded people talk about him. What did he achieve? A time machine, brilliant technology, maybe eternal life? Seeing Uzumaki nod his head negatively, the fallen angel frowned. Then what? Gives boys hickeys on the neck. With that, Naruto headed into the city. Azazel stood there for a moment, rebooted his brain, and then ran after the shinobi. Naruto, what did you just say? Uzumaki quickened his pace, pretending not to hear. With Madara. Maybe that's enough? Poor Akino, covered in bruises and cuts, unable to stand any longer, fell on her butt. Her head was empty. She'd been running all day again, but this time she was dodging thousands of kunai right in the middle of a apartment complex. It was terrifying. When he threw the first kunai at her, she was in shock. But she gradually got used to it, fear slapping her ass, which is why she only stopped now that day. At one point, she thought Madara had calmed down. The kunai stopped flying at her every 2 seconds. She slowed down, jogging lightly. She enjoyed this kind of running. After the chance to die gagged? Yeah, it was a nice easy run. But it didn't last long. Imagine her surprise when the bastard threw another kunai at her, and then multiplied it to 10. She didn't know how he did it. Frankly, she didn't even have time to think about it, because the idiot was knocking her out with kunai like artillery. Needless to say, it went on like that until evening. And here she was, exhausted, without legs. Horrible. I see you're ready for today. Madara stood over her again, the Uchiha smirk penetrating her, the desire to kill growing. How lucky he was that she couldn't lift a finger. Literally. I hate you. Madara laughed. Those were the best 2 days of his life in this world. Next time we'll combine your endurance training with physical training. The margarita was running low, he'd have to get more. Meet you tomorrow in the forest, not far from the city. What forest? The Uchiha was already leaving. In the morning, his voice was barely audible, and don't be late. When Madara disappeared among the trees and houses, the only thing the poor girl could say was, asshole. The next morning, Akino could barely stand. She'd barely made it to that forest, falling over every lump along the way. She seriously considered funding new roads. Madara was nowhere to be found. The idiot had made her come so early, and he himself was late. She had been standing there for 20 minutes and was already thinking of going home, when suddenly she thought she heard a wild roar. Poor Akino shook. There was a rustling in the bushes. What was that? A second later, Madara jumped out with the bear. Was she imagining things? With the bear? What the hell is that? Madara was holding the beast on a leash. It was thrashing wildly, trying with all its might to escape. So, my dear Akino-chan, remember I told you yesterday that we would train your physical fitness? I remember. She sounded uncertain, but what does the bear have to do with it? I'm not sure yet, but I think it will work. Let's test it. Bobek. Oh no. You wouldn't dare. Get it. Madara let go of the leashes. Screams echoed throughout the forest. With Naruto. How rich, Azazel. It wasn't for nothing that we came here, Naruto cried with happiness, stuffing mountains of money into his pocket, comparable to the annual revenue of a ramen shop. They never made it to Yasaka. The thing is, Azazel suggested Naruto go to the casino. Naruto had enough money for the fallen one to make a little money in a game Uzumaki didn't even know. At the same time, he wanted to see the shinobi's reaction. For science, so to speak. In the end, Azazel was left with nothing. Naruto completely defeated him. Seriously, Naruto, this isn't funny. You should thank God for your luck. It's basically impossible. Even probability theory doesn't allow for that. The chance is 1 in a million. Come on, you old pervert. Learn to lose. TCH, little one. Azazel shook his pockets and realized he didn't even have enough money for lunch. Naruto, could you lend me some? For food? The fallen angel put on the kindest expression he'd ever made in 10,000 years. Naruto, seeing the poor fallen angel, sighed and softened. Okay, of course I'll lend you some. I knew it. I always knew I could rely on you. On credit. Azazel didn't gamble with Uzumaki Naruto anymore. Azazel, if you don't turn off your... Naruto kicked the only fallen angel in the room, who was currently staring indecently at the Kyoto ruler's chest. Naruto, why are they so big? Uzumaki wasn't particularly surprised by such measurements in women. In his world, he remembered Grandma Tsunade, the Lightning Girl, Samui, Hinata, and many other women with good genetics. He'd never questioned it, but now, looking at Yasaka. At least it wasn't an anomaly in his world. Naruto, they're bigger than my head. Azazel. Huh. Shut up. Yasaka watched the small argument between the two people sitting across from her. They were barely audible, but somehow she guessed what they were talking about, so she inadvertently straightened her kimono. Clearing her throat, she continued. Dear Naruto, have you brought a guest? Lady Yasaka, this is not a guest, it is simply a feathered rooster that chased. Naruto didn't have time to finish before Azazel interrupted him. Yasaka-sama, I am Azazel, head of the Grigori, a fallen angel, ready to serve you and your people for the rest of my noble life. Azazel, Naruto scowled at his friend while Yasaka giggled. One does not betray one's people so easily. Uzumaki paused, no matter what kind of guest it may be. I understand, Naruto, that you have come not to me, but to Lady Amaterasu at her delicate request. Exactly, Uzumaki agreed, the problem is solved. I'm afraid that's not true. Yasaka looked sadly at the surprised boy. What do you mean? It's all about the others, to which Azazel and the shinobi exchanged glances. Like the others, the fallen one frowned. Yasaka merely shook her head. With Madara. So we've completed our light training of a fighter ready for battle. Of course, it's not perfect, of course, it could have been better, of course. Madara, shut up. The Uchiha looked at Akino. She was covered in bruises, and in some places there were scars she'd received from Babak and Tuzik, and Kuzya, and Mishka. Kami, Mishka was a truly tough opponent. Akino still felt as if Mishka wasn't just a bear, but a modified mutant with 6 legs. You have 5 days left until the fight with the fiery idiot. Use these 5 days to fully recover. Madara tapped the floor, as if debating whether he should say anything else. You did well. He quickly disappeared. Akino didn't even have time to gasp. They were walking with Naruto through the forests near Kyoto, searching for new Akatsuki, when suddenly Uzumaki stopped. What is it? Azazel saw his companion's surprised face. I suddenly became very proud of my protege. I don't know why. But this definitely doesn't bode well. Azazel chuckled. Yasaka told them that at least 5 new members with black cloaks had appeared. And this information began to unsettle the god of shinobi. First 2, then 5, and then there would be 10, 20, 50, 100, and 1,000. He remembered the Quarter Shinobi War, and he didn't want a repeat of that scenario. In that case, Uzumaki should have found the puppeteer, but judging by the fight with Kisame, he won't get any information from the reincarnated ones. You seem so serious. Unusual for you, the fallen angel observed the shinobi for a moment. Imagine, my dear Azazel, that before us, perhaps, is an army of zombies with greater strength, infinite endurance, and techniques capable of shove a pole so deep into your ass with just their minds that you won't be able to sit for 6 months. But you can't kill them, only seal them. But only I can do that. Now I understand. They walked a little further. Oh, and by the way, they're hunting you. Yes, I remember. Azazel wasn't really bothered. There were 1,001 other people besides them who wanted to kill him, when he suddenly stopped when the realization dawned on him. Holy. Naruto just nodded meaningfully. Wait, what should we do? What should I do? And so the strongest fallen one began to panic at the prospect of dying from immortal monsters. Now that was rich. Quiet. Naruto whispered, raising his hand and clenching it into a fist. He felt a small surge of chakra right next to them. It was so tiny, imperceptible to an ordinary shinobi, but for some reason Naruto decided there was danger nearby. Naruto, what's wrong? Azazel couldn't understand why Uzumaki had suddenly gone into a fighting stance. Until a second later, he barely dodged a flying kunai. Hey, show yourself! Uzumaki shouted. Several more kunai flew in response. Naruto, in turn, quickly assembled a small Rasen shuriken and threw it in the direction from which the kunai had come. The reaction was immediate. A guy in a black cloak with red clouds jumped out into the clearing to his two opponents. Kakuzu? Uzumaki asked in surprise. Who is this, Naruto? Some of the former Akatsuki members. We had a fight a long time ago. Who won? Azazel, are you an idiot? Kakuzu stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the two people in front of him. He immediately remembered Uzumaki Naruto, the man who had killed him with that technique. Even though the former Akatsuki member had been resurrected, he still felt the fear of an approaching whirlwind. For what? The fallen man was indignant. You know, Kakuzu interrupted the white-haired shinobi, even though my head, my instincts, and my desires are telling me to kill you, he pointed a finger at Azazel, I will still kill you first, Uzumaki Naruto. What an honor, Naruto sighed. Alright, guys, Azazel raised his hands in a gesture of reconciliation, then I'll take a walk somewhere while I wait my turn. Before he could leave, Naruto grabbed him by the collar. You know, Azazel, even though you're useless against them in battle, his grip tightened, while the poor fallen man swallowed the lump in his throat, you could be excellent for throwing. Before Azazel could finish speaking, he was thrown with great force straight at Kakuzu. The previously unsurprised, resurrected Kakuzu. Madara was lying on a couch in the occult research club. With Madara. The surrounding darkness was silent. Rias and her small team were currently at the raiding game. He hadn't seen Akino since the day he'd said goodbye to her after training ended. Even though Madara was now a relatively adult, a first-class shinobi who killed, he still felt a childish loneliness. He didn't know if it was normal, but Akino's absence suddenly made him sad. Maybe the Uchiha had become deeply attached to her? He didn't want to believe it. Naruto had been gone for weeks. The boy had disappeared to see a hot chick in Kyoto and never returned. Not that he cared. He was sure that several dozen clones were somewhere nearby. Now the Uchiha lay and waited for the game to end. Frankly, as sensei, he was very interested in how well he had trained his protege. He considered dozing off, but the creaking of the opening doors prevented him from doing so. Madara narrowed his eyes, and with a snap of his fingers, he recreated the flames on the candles to examine the newcomer. It was a middle-aged man with white hair, dressed in blue armor and an iron mask with a symbol familiar to the Uchiha. The man walked slowly and drew closer. Madara could have sworn he recognized this man, as if he resembled someone from his past life as a shinobi. Finally, the man closed the distance a few steps, muttering something under his breath. His eyes were red, and his scara were pitch black. For some reason, Madara didn't like this. "I sensed your chakra," the man began the conversation. "Who are you?" Madara was no longer lying down, but standing directly in front of the stranger. "You look like him," the man ignored the question. "Who?" "My name is Uchiha Madara, I doubt it means anything to you," the boy snorted, "not in this world." What Uchiha certainly didn't expect was that a second later he found himself slammed into the wall, the stranger squeezing his neck tightly, making it impossible for the boy to breathe. Kakuzu smirked at Naruto, his cracked lips stretching into an unpleasant smile. "You little bastard, you look older. I wonder if you've gotten stronger?" "I'm wondering," Azazel's lazy voice came from the side, perched on the nearby fence for some reason, crunching through a bag of chips. "If I Google, how to defeat a zombie with 5 hearts now, will it give me instructions or will it still fail?" "Azazel," Naruto began calmly, "where did you get the chips? Is this your friend?" Kakuzu said suspiciously, glancing sideways at the fallen angel. "No, definitely not," Uzumaki was adamant. "Hey!" came the childish cry of the eldest fallen, "that hurts, Naruto. I thought we were friends." "Enough." Without wasting any more time on words, Kakuzu lunged forward. His arms elongated like living tentacles, rushing towards Naruto. Uzumaki sharply jumped to the side, dodging the blow. Rasengan. Naruto gathered a chakra sphere and aimed it at his opponent's chest. Kakuzu took the blow to the chest and only flew back, smirking. "Have you forgotten, boy? I can't be killed." "Yes, I forgot, old man. But that doesn't mean I can't seal you," Naruto shouted, preparing for the next attack. Shadow clones. Azazel watched with puppy eyes as Uzumaki managed to create 10 copies of himself. Instantly, several Naruto clones appeared around Kakuzu, each holding a Rasen shuriken. One after another, they began attacking the enemy. Kakuzu confidently parried the initial blows, but gradually his defenses weakened. Naruto saw the moment and leaped upward, bringing down a powerful Rasen shuriken on the enemy. The explosion echoed across the area, and Kakuzu's body began to slowly recover. "You're still as annoying as before," he growled, "but it's not enough." "I know," Naruto replied calmly. "I know," he repeated. With Madara. Meanwhile, on the other side of Japan, Uchiha Madara, pinned against the wall, was trying to catch his last wisps of air. "And Grandpa's strong," the thought flashed through his mind to take advantage of this, but he had been training for quite some time. He expended all his enthusiasm on the girl. Suddenly, he felt much better. He didn't even notice how he fell to the floor, clutching his neck, gulping for air. "I thought it all ended during the Fourth War, but some idiot used my technique to resurrect me again," the white-haired man frowned, looking at the small Uchiha brat. He crouched, looking into Madara's face. "Old man," Madara coughed, "you're not bad, who are you?" "I sense chakra in you." The Senju smiled. "You really don't understand who I am?" They met face to face. Madara wiped away beads of sweat, suddenly realizing it. "Brat Tobirama?" The Senju stopped smiling. "Which one of us is still a brat?" He kicked the Uchiha, who, helpless, couldn't even regroup, breaking the table. Coughing up blood, Madara thought that life couldn't get any better. He was beaten at the hands of the brat who had chased him and Hashirama like a grasshopper as children. "You've become strong, Brat Tobirama. Madara, you've always been arrogant, even when you were 12. I'm not 12. They stared at each other for about a minute, until suddenly a parchment appeared on the floor, signaling the portal's arrival. "I don't know if you're an enemy, Uchiha. But I think it's worth sharing." Tobirama watched as the portal took shape. "Someone is controlling me, forcing me to kill 3 people. I can suppress it, but even my will," he paused, straining hard, as if trying to demonstrate the weight. Can't cope, Senju exhaled. The portal formed and the shadows of people appeared. See you later, Uchiha. See you later. With that, Tobirama disappeared. A wind blew, and Ryusa's entire entourage appeared in the club. The glare of their recent victory hadn't yet subsided. Each of them was battered, their arms were bruised, their legs bruised. They didn't even notice their destroyed table, Madara, who lay in a panther pose on the boards. It was their first victory in a raiding game, and they were savoring the moment. Only Akino, less battered, looked at her teacher. Her training had taught her to be ever vigilant, and seeing her master deep in thought, she immediately realized something was wrong. Naruto. And seal him. Azazel watched as Uzumaki cocooned his old adversary. The fight had been intense, but the Fallen One knew this wasn't Uzumaki's level. He was certain Naruto hadn't shown even a tenth of his power. This frightened him greatly. Jokes aside, he was standing next to a monster capable of destroying zombies, with infinite stamina and strength equal to his own. He was sure Naruto was on his side, but Azazel was unsettled by the very existence of such a man. A man? Azazel chuckled. What? Naruto looked questioningly at his friend. I wanted to ask, Azazel didn't hesitate, how do you make these mummies? The sealing technique. When will you teach me that? Dream on, Azazel, it's the art of the ninja. They only teach things like that on the Great Pink Elephant Mountain, where the Kung Fu snails live. Wow! The Fallen One didn't know what attracted him more, the Pink Elephant Mountain or the Kung Fu snails. But how? How do I get there? Well, don't keep me waiting, just tell me. Once again, the Fallen One was made to look like an idiot. Once again he hadn't noticed. After some time, Uzumaki finally returned to Kuo. He hadn't noticed any zombie ninja activity. But Yasaka and the goddess lady had clearly hinted to him that his work wasn't finished yet. There were others, just not in Kyoto. He was a little worried about Madara, considering he'd been gone for almost a month. The guy could have simply starved to death. Entering his shop, he saw a man of about 70. The old man was sitting at one of the tables, reading some porn magazine. He had a long, gray beard that he stroked every now and then as he turned the page, chuckling nastily at the new model. Naruto frowned, seeing that the old man didn't even notice him. Jiraiya's brother didn't even flinch when Uzumaki made his presence known by releasing a moderate amount of chakra. Another asshole god on my head, Uzumaki considered complaining to the appropriate authorities. Anyway, stop sending me gods, sounds like an excellent opportunity for a procedural investigation. Ho, 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 the old man laughed, but then began coughing violently. It wasn't a god, but Uzumaki was now worried about something else. Kami-sama, Naruto pleaded, please don't die. He still hadn't recovered from the last police check. These guys were more honest than Rock Lee at his age, and that was saying a lot. Your thoughts, Uzumaki Naruto, the old man stopped laughing, only directing his single blue eye directly at the boy, are very funny. Uzumaki cringed. He took a chair and sat down next to the old man. So, Naruto began, glancing at the curvaceous figure on one of the magazine pages. My name is Odin, the old man smiled. Want to read? He laughed again as Naruto blushed furiously. With Madara battered but unbroken, the Uchiha wanted to quickly tell Naruto everything he had learned about old man Tobirama. He knew Naruto had arrived and was currently in his cafe. He ran up to the building, a few steps away, but suddenly stopped, smelling a pungent odor. A second later, Naruto's cafe exploded as if a nuclear missile had hit it. The force of the impact sent the Uchiha flying, successfully smashing through several trees. The was just chasing him, he should have accepted it. Madara struggled to his feet, shaking off the debris. His ears were still ringing from the explosion, and one thought was spinning in his head, Naruto-sensei. He rushed to the spot where the cafe had once stood. Now there was a huge crater there, with smoke rising from it. But what surprised the Uchiha most of all was that two figures stood in the center of the crater, completely unharmed. "You old pervert." Naruto's voice echoed throughout the area. "That was my ramen cafe." The gray-bearded old man merely shrugged, still clutching the charred porn magazine. "Ho ho ho, sorry, boy. I misjudged the strength of the greeting." Odin scratched his beard. "In Asgard, we're used to more explosive introductions." "Asgard?" Madara jumped into the crater, landing next to Naruto. "Sensei, are you okay?" "Oh, Madara. Yeah, I'm fine." "Meet another asshole god who decided to ruin my day." Naruto waved his hand towards Odin. "And this is my student, who looks like he's been put through a meat grinder." He looked at Madara again. "What happened?" Madara opened his mouth to tell him about Tobirama, but a new voice interrupted him. "Naruto Uzumaki." All three turned around. Rias Gremory stood at the edge of the crater with her retinue. Akino was among them, and Madara noticed how her eyes widened at his state. "What happened here?" Rias demanded. "Just a normal Tuesday," Naruto shrugged. "Perverted old men blowing up my business. Nothing out of the ordinary. This is no joke." Rias frowned. "An explosion that powerful could have destroyed half a city block. As the head of the Kuo territory, I require an explanation." Odin eyed the young devil with interest. "Oh, what a busty girl. Almost like the Valkyries in my palace." He stroked his beard. "Would you like to become my 901st wife?" Silence hung in the air. Even Naruto was speechless for a second. 901st. Akino squealed. "Yes, my dear. I have an extensive harem. All the beauties from different worlds." Odin puffed out his chest proudly. "Okay, stop." Naruto raised his hands. "First of all, Odin, stop hitting on schoolgirls. Secondly, Rias, this is a misunderstanding. Gramps just sneezed too hard." "Sneezed?" everyone asked in unison. "A divine sneeze," Naruto nodded, his face serious. "It happens. Gods are allergic to earthly dust." Madara covered his face with his hand. Sometimes his sensei was unbearable. "By the way, Madara," Naruto turned to his student, "why do you look like you got beat up by an ANBU squad?" "Tobirama," the Uchiha blurted out. "Old man Tobirama. He tried to kill me. Said someone was controlling him." Naruto's expression instantly turned serious. "Tobirama? If he's here, then the other Hokage could be resurrected too," Kurama finished, appearing next to Uzumaki. "Is that bad?" "Very." Naruto rubbed his temples. "Imagine the four most powerful shinobi in history, but as immortal zombies with enhanced abilities." Odin, who had been looking at a magazine until that moment, suddenly looked up. "Resurrection of the dead? Interesting. I feel the hand of someone who shouldn't be in this world." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "Honestly, that's why I came, my friend. There is a being trapped between worlds. Trihexa, the beast of the apocalypse. Someone is using power from your world to free it." Odin stood up, and the air around him trembled with power. "And apparently, it's learning from your techniques." "Trihexa?" Rias paled. "But this is the end of the world." "Don't worry, redhead," Naruto patted her shoulder. "I've faced the end of the world before. This is my fourth or fifth, I lost count." "How can you be so calm?" Rias was indignant. "Experience," Naruto shrugged, then turned to Odin. "Okay, Grandpa, since you're here and you blew up my cafe, will you help me with the investigation?" What do I get for that?" The god narrowed his eyes slyly. "I'll introduce you to Yasaka." Odin's eyes lit up. Yasaka? The leader of the Kyoto Yukai? They say she has the figure of a goddess. And a personality too, Naruto muttered. So? Deal. Odin extended his hand for a shake, and Naruto shook it cautiously, fearing another divine sneeze. Wait. Akino intervened. What about Tobirama? If he's hunting Madara. I'll deal with Tobirama, Naruto said confidently. But first, we need to find out who's behind all these resurrections. And fix the cafe, Madara added. And fix the cafe, Naruto agreed. I'll have to deal with the insurance company again. They already think I'm deliberately blowing up my business. Isn't it deliberate? Odin asked innocently. This is all your fault, you old pervert. While Naruto and Odin were arguing, Madara approached Akino. He wondered why he was approaching the girl. But considering the world was turning to, well, he decided to stop wiggling his ass. Thank you for the training, he said quietly. I understand you fought well in the raiding game. Akino smiled, but there was worry in her eyes. Madara, this Tobirama, is he really that strong? Stronger than the last time I saw him, the Uchiha admitted with a chuckle, remembering his recent past. But don't worry. Next time, I'll be ready. We'll be ready next time, Akino corrected him. Madara looked at her in surprise, then grinned. Good. Next time, we'll kick his ass together. Naruto smiled, watching the fighting spirit of his protege and his little girlfriend. He decided not to break their resolve. After all, he would kick the other one's ass himself. Whose ass are you going to kick? Tobirama? Kurama snorted. You still need 20 years to reach his level, emo. Several kunai flew at the fox. Well, and I was hoping for a good ending, Uzumaki thought sadly. Meanwhile, somewhere in the dark dimension, a figure in the shadows watched the events through a magic crystal. One has arrived earlier than expected, the voice hissed. But that does not change our plans. Trihexa-sama, you will soon be free. And this world, all worlds, will fall before your might. 5 silhouettes in black cloaks with red clouds materialized next to the figure. In the meantime, the voice continued, let the Hokage play with old friends. Go. Find and destroy Uzumaki Naruto. The 5 resurrected shinobi vanished in a swirl of leaves, heading toward their target. The storm was just beginning. Naruto sensed them approaching from a kilometer away. 5 powerful sources of chakra were moving straight towards them at incredible speed. Madara, take everyone and go. Now, Uzumaki's voice was unusually serious. What's going on? Rias frowned, sensing the tension. Company's coming. Not a pleasant crowd, Naruto turned to Odin. Grandpa, can you teleport them out of here? Odin nodded, instantly assessing the situation. Ho ho, looks like the fun is starting without me. I'm staying, Madara stated stubbornly. No, Naruto shook his head. This isn't your level. Not yet. Before the Uchiha could object, Odin snapped his fingers, and the entire group disappeared in a rainbow glow. Naruto was left alone in the crater that used to be his cafe. I just fixed it, now I have to rebuild it again, he sighed. 5 figures appeared simultaneously, surrounding Uzumaki. Black cloaks with red clouds fluttered in the wind. Naruto recognized them all. Sasori from Sand. Some guy with a scythe. Conan from Rain. And Asuma-sensei, Naruto said quietly, seeing the former teacher of Team 10. And Dan-san. Kato Dan, Tsunade's lover, stood next to Asuma. Both had the characteristic black eyes of the reincarnated. Uzumaki Naruto, Sasori's voice was monotonous. Order, destroy. Really? Naruto stretched, rolling his shoulders. Should we talk first? Tea, cookies? No? Sasori's poisoned needles rained down on him in response. Uzumaki jumped back sharply. Naruto, have you noticed? This time, they want to kill you specifically? Yeah, apparently someone didn't like the Great Hermit from the Pink Elephant Mountain. Naruto disappeared in a yellow flash, appearing behind the puppeteer. Rasengan. But Sasori was already spinning around, releasing dozens of blades from his chest. Naruto jumped back, dodging the deadly fan. Ninja art, paper storm. Konan flew into the air, her body disintegrating into millions of sheets of paper. Again? Seriously? Naruto created several shadow clones. You guys know I've been through this before. Curse ritual. Haiden lunged, swinging his scythe. Jashin-sama thirsts for your blood. Naruto caught the scythe with his bare hands, stopping it a centimeter from his face. And who are you? Naruto frowned, looking at the madman. He thought for a moment, he had a feeling he'd seen or heard of this scythe somewhere. But there was little time. Asuma attacked from the flank, his chakra knives cutting through the air. Uzumaki leaped upward, but Dan was already waiting for him. Spiritual transformation technique. Dan's translucent figure burst from his body, heading straight for Naruto. But Uzumaki simply smirked. Kurama, take care of the guest. With pleasure, the nine-tailed beast growled within. Dan's spiritual form crashed into the mental barrier and was thrown back by the Biju's power. Naruto landed in the center of the crater, surrounded by 5 reincarnated shinobi. You know what pisses me off? He asked, creating even more clones. You're all already dead. You deserved peace. And some bastard dragged you back into the light. Your words mean nothing. Konan unleashed a rain of explosive tags on him. How rude, Konan-chan. Explosions shook the ground, but when the smoke cleared, Naruto stood unharmed, surrounded by the golden glow of Kurama mode. Fine, if the good way won't work. Naruto performed hand seals. Mass shadow clone creation. Hundreds of Uzumaki copies filled the battlefield. This is cheating, one of the clones shouted. There are more of us. Shut up and fight, another clone replied. Naruto's eye twitched, his clones becoming even more unpredictable. The battle descended into chaos. Naruto's clones attacked from all sides, but the reincarnated shinobi were tireless. Sasori summoned 100 puppets, turning the battle into a veritable slaughter. Haiden, laughing like a madman, slashed at clones left and right, not caring for his own wounds. Konan created paper spears and swords, piercing her opponents by the dozens. The real Naruto focused on Asuma and Dana. Those two were special, they were connected to people he knew and respected. Asuma-sensei, Naruto blocked a blow from the chakra knives. Shikamaru has become an excellent strategist. You would be proud of him. Asuma's eyes flickered for a moment, but the reincarnation's control was too strong. I'm sorry, Naruto, Asuma croaked, struggling with the order. I can't stop. I know, Naruto created Rasen Shuriken. That's why I'll free you. He threw a spinning shuriken of chakra at the group of opponents. Sasori put up a shield of puppets, but Naruto's technique cut through them like paper. It's useless. Haiden emerged from the epicenter of the explosion, regenerating as he went. We're immortal. I know a trick, idiot. Naruto appeared right in front of him. But I have something better than death. He clapped his hands, and glowing symbols appeared on the ground. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, mass sealing. Seals spread across the ground like a web, seeking to trap the reincarnated. But they were prepared, years of battle had taught them caution. Konan soared higher, Sasori hid in his best puppet, Haiden. Haiden simply ran straight at Naruto, ignoring the seals. Idiot, Naruto muttered, dodging the scythe. Suddenly, someone emerged from the ground and grabbed Uzumaki tightly by the ankles. Asuma used the distraction to catch Uzumaki with his technique. Gotcha, Asuma croaked. Actually, no, Naruto smirked, his body exploding into smoke. A clone. The real Naruto appeared from above, unleashing a giant Rasengan on Dan, who was attempting to use his spirit technique again. Sorry, Dan-san, but Tsunade-chan will kill me if I let you wander around like zombies. The blow crushed Dan into the ground, where he was immediately entangled in ceiling seals. We have won. Naruto shouted. Nine Tails. Haiden yelled, launching another attack. Jashin-sama demands your blood. Jashin can go. Himself. Uzumaki remembered who this character was. He was Asuma-sensei's killer, Shikamaru had told him. He was. In Naruto's book. Out of all of them, you're the most annoying. Naruto caught the scythe and yanked, pulling Haiden towards him. A powerful headbutt sent the immortal flying straight into the center of the ceiling sigil. 2. Sasori released all of his puppets at once, 100 of the puppeteer's finest creations. The air filled with poisonous mist and flying blades. Sage mode. Naruto closed his eyes, and when he opened them, they were orange with horizontal pupils. Let's do it for real. He moved like the wind, using Toad Kung Fu, extending his chakra claws, destroying the puppets one by one. Sasori tried to keep up, but Naruto was too fast. Art is red, Sasori said monotonously, preparing his final attack. And red is the color of blood. Philosophy in battle? Seriously? Naruto appeared right in front of him. This is my philosophy, Cho-Bai Gamma Rasengan. A gigantic sphere of chakra the size of a house crashed down on Sasori. The puppeteer didn't even try to dodge, he simply took the blow, knowing it was the end. 3. Konan and Asuma remained. The origami woman floated in the air, creating more and more explosive tags. Asuma, shaken from the shock of Dan's defeat, was preparing his strongest technique. 1,000 explosions. Konan rained explosives down on Naruto. Burning ash. Asuma exhaled a cloud of flammable ash. The two techniques combined, creating a truly apocalyptic explosion. The ground shook, and the shockwave destroyed the remains of buildings within a kilometer. When the smoke cleared, there was a huge crater where Naruto had been. Ready? Konan asked emotionlessly. Actually. Naruto's voice came from behind them. No. Both reincarnated figures turned around abruptly. Naruto stood there without a single scratch. You know, he continued. You are stronger than you were in life. Much stronger. Someone seriously leveled up their resurrection technique. But I have new tricks too. The space around them distorted. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, and then. What? Konan found herself bound in seals. How? Asuma was in the same situation. You know, Naruto materialized in front of the two reincarnated men, having such immense power. I realized one thing, he squeezed his hand, as if in confirmation, chakra is a powerful tool. Can you imagine that simply releasing a huge amount of your chakra? Your chakra, yeah, the fox just rolled his eyes. Kurama, sure. Can't you see, I'm just playing for the public. Both reincarnated men shook their heads. So what was I talking about? Uzumaki continued, with the power of my chakra, I can literally bend space, so what you saw a minute ago was just an illusion. Naruto suddenly stopped and looked at the sky. Bite team, who's the loser at Genjutsu now? Both reincarnated men began to be sucked into the ceiling scrolls. Asuma struggled with the ceiling seals, his body already beginning to be sucked into the scroll. But suddenly his eyes cleared, his control weakened for a moment. Naruto. He croaked. Listen, carefully. Uzumaki was instantly next to him, holding the seal to give Asuma time. The base, in the rift, between worlds, Asuma had difficulty pronouncing the words. Not here, not in your world. Between worlds? Where exactly? A hole, in reality, Asuma's eyes clouded over again, control returning. Kabuto, but not that one, the other, stronger. Kabuto? He's alive? No. Yes, complicated, Asuma twitched, struggling with himself. He merged, with something. Trihexa, using, our techniques, learning. Suddenly Asuma straightened up, and his voice became mechanical. Uzumaki Naruto. You received more than you deserved. Asuma-sensei. Shikamaru, proud, the last words were his own again, before the seal completely absorbed him. Naruto stood over the sealed scroll, processing what he'd just heard. A rift between worlds? Kabuto fused with Trihexa? It's a trap, Kurama growled. I know. But it's the only clue. Between worlds. Remember that weird place where we met the dragon and the little girl? The office. Right. A rift. The 5 of them were sealed. Naruto sat down tiredly on the ground, surveying the destruction. My poor cafe, he sighed. The insurance company definitely won't believe it. Naruto stood up, dusting himself off. Sirens could already be heard in the distance, local services were responding to the destruction. Oh, I'll have to explain myself again, he muttered. Sorry, officer, those were reincarnated ninja from another world. Sounds convincing, huh? Suddenly, Odin and the others materialized in front of him. Ho ho, I see you had fun without us. The old god exclaimed cheerfully. Naruto-sensei. Madara ran up to his teacher. I felt the explosions even from there. Who was that? Old acquaintances, Naruto answered evasively. Problem solved. Temporarily. What do you mean, temporarily? Rias frowned. So this is just reconnaissance, Uzumaki replied gloomily. The real army is still ahead. Everyone fell silent, realizing the scale of the threat. But hey! Naruto clapped his hands, instantly changing the mood. Who wants ramen? I know a great place nearby. Sensei, Madara sighed wearily. You just fought 5 reincarnated assassins. So? That's no reason to skip dinner. Come on, I'm treating you. After all, he had just returned from the road. And despite the seriousness of the situation, the group followed the blonde. Because if Uzumaki Naruto could joke after such a fight, then all was not lost. And somewhere in the dark dimension, the observer clenched his fists. He's become stronger than in the recordings. Much stronger. Does that change the plan? Asked the second voice. No. It just speeds it up. We need to reinforce our base. He'll be here soon. The darkness stirred, and dozens, hundreds of figures began to rise. Meanwhile, Naruto was arguing with the waiter about the size of the ramen portion, completely unaware that the storm was just beginning. Naruto stood in the middle of the ruined cafe, carefully studying the information received from Asuma. A rift between worlds, but where? Madara, he called to his student. I'm leaving. I need to check one guess. What? Now? The Uchiha frowned. But we just. Listen carefully, Naruto put his hand on the boy's shoulder. Asuma mentioned a rift between worlds. I need to find that place by any means necessary. Madara nodded, remembering their first moments in this world. There will soon be trouble in the city. I can feel it, Naruto continued. Protect them, he nodded towards Rias and her retinue. But. No buts. You are ready. Believe in yourself, Naruto created several clones. They will stay nearby, but will only intervene as a last resort. Are you sure we should leave the brat alone? Kurama grumbled in his mind. He can handle it. He should, Naruto replied mentally. Yeah, and remember how you handled it at his age? How many times did Kakashi get your ass out of trouble? That was different. Exactly, you were even dumber. Fox, Naruto muttered out loud, and then in his mind, why are you even protecting him? You two aren't exactly on the same page. I can forgive, the nine-tailed beast nodded proudly. Naruto just rolled his eyes at this, then turned to Madara. If anything goes wrong, the clones will let you know. Good luck. Without waiting for an answer, Uzumaki disappeared in a yellow flash, leaving his confused student. Sensei, Madara muttered. 3 days passed. Kuo Academy was abuzz with rumors. Fallen angel attacks had become more frequent in the city. Several priests had been found dead, and the local church now emanated an ominous aura. That same morning, Asia was walking down the school hallway when two strangers in clerical robes called out to her. Asia Argento, a blue-haired woman in a striped hood, said sternly. A former saint, now a devil. Next to her stood a girl with chestnut-colored hair tied in bandages, looking at Asia with sadness. Irina? Zenobia? Asia backed away. What are you doing here? We're on a mission to recover the stolen fragments of Excalibur, Zenobia replied coldly. But seeing you in this state. It's disgusting. Asia, Irina took a step forward, her voice filled with sadness. How could you? Become a devil? Betray the Lord? I didn't. Tears welled up in the former nun's eyes. I was dying. Ryo-sama saved me. It would have been better for you to die a saint than to live as a spawn of hell. Zenobia snapped. The words hit Asia like a slap in the face. She lowered her head, unable to look at her former sisters in the faith. Perhaps, maybe you're right. Of course we're right. Zenobia drew her sword. Allow us to correct this mistake. Die now, and perhaps the Lord will forgive your weakness. Irina looked at her partner uncertainly, but nodded. It would be a mercy, Asia. A quick death is better than eternal torment. Hey, a loud voice rang out. Issei appeared from around the corner, his face flushed with anger. What the hell are you saying? Get away from Asia. Pervert from the Gremory peerage, Zenobia didn't even turn around. Don't interfere with church affairs. Church affairs? Issei stepped between them and Asia. You're threatening my friend. I don't care about your church. Heretic, Zenobia hissed, but Irina stopped her. Wait. We need to focus on the mission. Kokabeel. Kokabeel is a traitorous fallen angel, Zenobia interrupted. He stole the sacred swords and threatens to start a new war. But even he hasn't sunk as low as some. She took one last look at Asia. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. A massive aura of pressure descended on everyone present. A man in white robes with silver hair appeared in the corridor. Oh, what a meeting, he said with a smile. Warriors of the church and devils in the same place. How convenient. Valper Galilei, Zenobia hissed. The excommunicated priest. A former priest, Valper corrected. I now serve a higher purpose. Kokabeel-sama awaits you all at midnight tonight at the old church. Don't be late, or, he snapped his fingers, and an image of the city engulfed in the light of destruction appeared in the air. All of Kuo will disappear. With these words, he vanished into thin air. Zenobia and Irina exchanged glances. We must stop him, Irina said. Yes. But remember, no help from devils. We can handle this ourselves, in the name of God. In the name of God, Irina echoed, though her voice lacked the same confidence. They left, leaving a shocked Asia and Issei. Tension filled the clubroom. Rias paced back and forth, considering the situation. Madara sat on the windowsill, watching her thrashing about. Kokabile, she finally said. One of the leaders of the Grigori, a survivor of the Great War. His power, it surpasses anything we've ever encountered. He's always been obsessed with war, Rias thought. Even Azazel couldn't control him. But why steal the Excaliburs? Fragments of the holy sword. Kiba, she turned to her knight. I know that Excalibur is, to you. I'm fine, President, the blonde replied, but his clenched fists said otherwise. The Holy Sword Project, Rias remembered Kiba's story. The church's experiments to create artificial bearers of the holy swords. All the children died except him. And now Excalibur is here again, in the hands of a madman. So what's the problem? Madara jumped off the windowsill. Kokabile is threatening the city. Call for reinforcements from hell. I can't, Rias clenched her fists. My brother forbade it. It's policy, officially, we are in a truce with the fallen. We can't act openly without obvious provocation. Provocation? Madara pointed to the window. He's threatening to destroy the city. Not enough to violate the treaty, Rias replied bitterly. We need proof of direct aggression against devils. Politics, the Uchiha snorted. How easy it was for us. Really? Rias snorted. And how did you resolve a situation like that? With blood. Her eyes burned. She wasn't listening to him anymore. Kokabile knows politics, Rias thought. He's exploiting loopholes in the treaty. But why? What is he planning? Midnight. The old church looked even more ominous in the moonlight. Rias's group cautiously approached the building. Irina and Zenobia were already there, ready for battle. The sky suddenly lit up. Kokabile descended from the heavens, his 10 black wings spread majestically behind him. He held a spear of light the size of a telegraph pole. Sister Lucifer and the warriors of the church, his voice was full of contempt. How convenient, all gathered for their own execution. Thank you so much for coming. Kokabile. Zenobia stepped forward. Return the stolen Excaliburs. Oh, those toys. The fallen angel laughed, and swords materialized around him. A beautiful collection, isn't it? Why do you need them? Rias demanded. For war, of course. Kokabile flapped his wings. I'm tired of this false peace. If I kill the heiress of a great house, the wielders of Excalibur, Irina and Zenobia exchanged glances, the world will be mired in war again. Why? Rias's heart sank. Why do you need war? Because this isn't peace, it's an illusion. You think you signed a pact that can save lives, but it's only fiction and degradation. War is the engine of progress. After the death of God, winning the war will be simple. These words struck like a bolt from the blue. Irina staggered, her eyes widening in shock. God is dead. And no. That's a lie, Zenobia said. Oh, didn't you know? His horrific smile turned the color of the white moon. He died in the Great War, along with the 4 Satans. Kokabile continued. All this time, Michael has been maintaining the system, pretending that God is alive. Your prayers, your faith, all in vain. Zenobia fell to her knees, the sword falling from her hands. Irina simply stood there, unable to process the information. This can't be true, she whispered before losing consciousness. Irina. Asia rushed towards the fallen girl. Pathetic, Kokabile snorted. Now die. He attacked without warning. A massive spear of light flew straight at the group. Kiba barely managed to push Asia and Irina away, taking the blow himself. Kiba! Rias screamed. The knight flew to the side, his body smoking from the light scorch marks. One has fallen, Kokabile conjured a new spear. Who's next? Kaneko lunged forward, unleashing her inhuman strength. But Kokabeel simply waved his wing, sending the small Nikomata careening into the church wall. Kaneko-chan. Akino unleashed a bolt of lightning, but the fallen angel dispelled it with a wave of his hand. Barakiel's daughter, he chuckled. How ironic. Your father would be disappointed to see you among the devils. Akino froze. How did he know? Taking advantage of her confusion, Kokabeel attacked. Issei tried to shield her with his sacred gear, but was tossed aside like a rag doll. A dragon? The fallen angel laughed. Even with the red dragon, you're too weak. Rias unleashed her power of destruction, but Kokabeel dodged it with mocking ease. And this is Lucifer's sister? A pitiful sight. He created numerous spears of light, raining them down on the remaining ones. Zenobia tried to defend herself with Excalibur, but was overwhelmed by numbers. Akino protected the wounded with a lightning barrier, but it cracked under the onslaught. Enough games, Kokabeel raised his hand, forming a massive spear of light. Die, Gremory. The spear flew straight at Rias. Time seemed to slow down. This is the end, the red-haired devil thought. No. Akino rushed forward, shielding Rias with her body. Bucho. Rias, you saved me once. Gave me a home, a family, a purpose. Let me repay you in kind. Akino closed her eyes, ready to take the blow. At the last moment, a face flashed through her mind, not Rias's, but a black-haired boy with a cheeky smirk. Madara. I'm sorry. It looks like I won't be able to show you the results of my training. But the blow didn't land. Instead, there was the sound of metal on metal. Akino opened her eyes. Madara stood before her, deflecting the light spear with a regular kunai. Yo, he said over his shoulder. Are you awake? Madara? Akino couldn't believe her eyes. How did you? I'll explain later, the Uchiha turned to Kokabeel. And you, feathered chicken. Attacking girls when they can't defend themselves? Where is your pride as a warrior? Kokabeel narrowed his eyes, studying the newcomer. Another human? You breed like cockroaches. It's funny to hear that from someone who hides behind his wings. Madara activated his Sharingan. Let's settle this one-on-one. Or are you afraid? Afraid? Kokabeel laughed. Me, who survived the war with God? Afraid of a human spawn? Then prove it. Madara assumed a fighting stance. Show me the power of an ancient fallen angel. Kokabeel chuckled and descended to the ground. Very well. I'll have some fun before I destroy you all. They stood facing each other. Madara quickly assessed the situation. Most of his allies were wounded or unconscious. He was alone against a being who had survived the War of the Gods. Excellent, he thought. Sensei will definitely kill me if I lose. Kokabeel attacked first. His speed was incredible, 10 wings gave him an advantage in maneuverability. A spear of light cut through the air where Madara had been a moment ago. The Uchiha dodged, his Sharingan barely keeping up with his opponent's movements. He threw several shuriken, but Kokabeel deflected them with his wings. Too slow. The fallen angel appeared from above, bringing the spear down. Madara rolled to the side, the ground exploding from the impact. Wasting no time, he formed hand seals. Great fireball. Flames erupted from his mouth, but Kokabeel simply flew through it, protected by a barrier of light. Primitive. A wing strike sent Madara flying backwards. He crashed into a tree, spitting out blood. Madara. Akino screamed. Don't interfere. The Uchiha croaked, standing up. Kokabeel didn't give him time to catch his breath. Spears of light rained down from the sky. Madara dodged the first ones, but one pierced his shoulder, the second his thigh. Arg! What happened? Where's your bravado? Kokabile taunted. Madara was breathing heavily, blood pouring from his wounds. But his eyes still burned with determination. I'm just warming up. He rushed forward, ignoring the pain. A series of kunai strikes forced Kokabile to defend himself. Seizing the moment, Madara slipped under a wing and struck him in the solar plexus. Gah! Kokabile was thrown back, but quickly recovered. Not bad. But not enough. He soared upward and began to form a massive spear of light, several times larger than the previous ones. Die! The spear fell like a meteor. Madara knew he wouldn't have time to dodge. Time seemed to slow, and in that moment, something inside him snapped. Pain pierced his eyes, but with it came new strength. The tomo in his Sharingan began to merge, forming a new pattern. Mangekyo Sharingan. His left eye activated. Time froze around him, the spear froze in midair, Kokabile hovering with a surprised expression. 5 seconds, Madara realized. I have 5 seconds. He leaped to the side and threw all his remaining kunai with explosive tags at the frozen Kokabile. Then he formed the most powerful fire technique he knew. Great Fire Annihilation. Time resumed. The spear slammed into the ground where Madara had been, and Kokabile suddenly found himself surrounded by explosions and a sea of flame. What? The fallen angel roared, his wings scorched. But he was still strong. Scattering the flames with a flap of his wings, Kokabile glared at Madara. What kind of technique was that? Madara remained silent, blood pouring from his left eye. Using his new power hadn't come easy. It doesn't matter. Kokabile created 2 lightsabers. I will kill you here and now. He attacked with renewed fury. Madara barely had time to defend himself, each blow leaving new wounds. His vision began to blur from blood loss. I've reached my limit. Kokabile raised his swords for the finishing blow. Farewell, human. At that moment, Madara's right eye activated on its own. Time around Kokabile suddenly sped up, his movements became blurry, uncontrollable. What's happening? The fallen angel tried to stop, but his body was moving too fast. Madara seized his chance. Gathering the last of his strength, he activated both eyes simultaneously. The left one slowed down time around him, the right one sped up time around Kokabile. The difference in the flow of time created a distortion in space. Kokabile found himself trapped in a temporal trap, his body torn between 2 time streams. It's impossible. The fallen angel screamed, his form distorting. I can't lose. It's over, Madara whispered, holding the technique. With a final cry, Kokabile vanished, torn apart by a temporal paradox. The Excaliburs fell to the ground, no longer supported by his power. Madara collapsed to his knees. Blood flowed from both eyes, his vision almost completely lost. Madara. Akino ran to him, catching his falling body. You idiot. Why did you use such a dangerous technique? Because, he smiled weakly through the pain, someone had to protect you weaklings, you. Stupid, tears streamed down Akino's cheeks. Stupid, reckless. Hey, don't cry, Madara raised a trembling hand to her face. It doesn't suit you. He lost consciousness. Akino held him close, ignoring the blood. Don't you dare die, she whispered. Do you hear me? Don't you dare. The others were slowly coming to. Rias crawled toward them, clutching her wounded side. He defeated Kokabile. Her voice was tinged with awe. Alone. We need help. Asia shouted, activating her sacred gear. Quick. While they fussed over the wounded Madara, no one noticed the figure watching from the shadows. Interesting, the stranger muttered. A Mangekyo with time control. That wasn't in the records of Uchiha Madara. It seems being in this world has altered his abilities. He smiled, his eyes briefly turning red with black scara. Trihexa-sama will be pleased. The data on these new abilities is invaluable. And Naruto-kun. I wonder what changes have occurred to you. With these words, he vanished into thin air, leaving the group to tend to the wounded. And somewhere in Kyoto, in an abandoned area, Uzumaki Naruto stood next to another trash can. Are you sure this is it? Kurama asked. I mean, did I really understand what you were planning to do? Look for a portal in the rift between worlds or dig through the trash? Spare me the irony. I repeat, we must find that cat. She can somehow transform into a cat. She's a cat person, Naruto told Kurama about Kuroka when the fox was away, looking for a way to return home. Forgive me if I start to doubt, but allow me to summarize. While I was walking around Kyoto, a cat came to your aid, which you took in and named Kurozetsu. So, Kurozetsu wasn't a cat, but a human who worked for the Chibi dragon we met at the very beginning? That's right. Chibi wanted to take you into her organization, but you refused, and now we need to find Kuroka so we can find the Chibi dragon and get into the rift between worlds. Absolutely. I have 2 questions. Yeah? If she brought you here before, then why don't you know where we should go? And the second one? Naruto? Have you forgotten? I was caught up in something. Kurama understood what Uzumaki was talking about. Idiot. Naruto stood in the middle of a Kyoto alley, surrounded by overturned trash cans. His hair was adorned with the remains of someone's lunch, and an imprint of a fish skeleton was on his cheek. Kuroka! He shouted into the empty air. Kitty kitty kitty. I have food. Do you realize you look like an idiot? Kurama commented. She was a cat. This should work. She was pretending to be a cat. This is a little different. Naruto ignored the fox and pulled out a bag of cat food he had bought on the way. Look, Kuroka. Your favorite. Tuna with salmon. Passers-by circled around him, some taking out their phones, clearly intending to call the police. Naruto, Kurama sighed. Let's think about it logically. Where do you usually find a cat? In the trash. No. On the roof? Warmer, but no. Oh. In a ramen shop. How did that even, you know what, forget it. Where did you last see her? Naruto thought, scratching his head and accidentally smearing even more trash in his hair. She led me to office, and then I came back through the portal. And you didn't remember the way. Listen, I was busy. Office offered me power, strength. And you were thinking about ramen? How would you know? Kurama mentally slammed his head against the wall of his cage. Okay, let's do it this way. Kuroka is a demon cat. Where in Kyoto might yokai gather? Oh. Naruto snapped his fingers. Yasaka. She's the leader of the yokai. Finally, a sensible thought. An hour later, they stood in front of Yasaka's residence. Naruto managed to wash himself in the fountain on the way, although the smell of fish still haunted him. Uzumaki-san? Yasaka looked surprised to see him at the door. What brings you, and why do you smell like tuna? Long story. I need to know the location of a yokai named Kuroka. Black cat, large breasts, says Naya every other word. Yasaka covered her mouth with her sleeve, hiding a smile. You've described half the cats in Japan. Seriously? Naruto clutched his head. But, Yasaka continued, I know who you're talking about. Kuroka of the Nikoshi clan. She's a fugitive, wanted by hell for the murder of her master. Murder? Naruto frowned. She didn't look like a killer. She's doing a pretty good job of pretending to be a normal cat, Kurama snorted. They say she went crazy from experimenting with senjutsu, Yasaka added. But recently she's been showing up in the old warehouses on the outskirts of town. Looking for her little sister. Sister? Chiron. Also a Nikomata, she serves the Gremory clan under the name Kaneko Tojo. Kaneko? Naruto nearly choked on air. That little white one. Wait, they're nothing alike. One took her mother's genes, the other her father's, Yasaka shrugged. Yukai genetics are unpredictable. Don't tell me what you were thinking about breasts when you said they weren't alike. Interesting, Yasaka-san, thank you. I'll keep an eye out. He ignored Kurama. The old warehouses looked abandoned. Naruto carefully picked his way between the rusty containers, listening. Do you sense anything? He asked Kurama. A faint trace of senjutsu. She was here, but... Suddenly, a shadow fell from above. Naruto barely managed to jump back as sharp claws cut the air where he had just been standing. Naya, how fast? Kuroka was standing on the container in her human form. A black kimono, cat ears, and two tails fluttering behind her. Kuroka. Finally. Did Naruto-kun come to play? She licked her lips. Or are you here on hell's business? Do you want to hand over the poor kitty for a reward? What? No. I need your help. Help? Kuroka bowed her head. And what in return, Naya? Ramen? The girl snorted. A pathetic offer. But I have a counter-offer, her eyes narrowed. Help me get Chiron out of hell, and I'll take you anywhere. Chiron is... Kaneko? But she's happy with her group. Happy? Kuroka jumped down, coming closer. She serves the devils. The same creatures that experimented on us. Wait, what? Kuroka stopped, studying his face. Our former master, from the Devil Clan, used us for senjutsu experiments. He wanted to create a super Nikomata. I killed him to protect Chiron, but hell declared me a criminal, and she was taken by the Gremory. It's complicated, Naruto scratched his head. But Kaneko looks happy. And Rias is good to her. Lies. Manipulation. Kuroka unsheathed her claws. They're using her. You know what? Naruto raised his hands in a placating gesture. Let's do this. You take me to Office, and then we'll go visit Kaneko together. We'll talk to her, find out if she's happy. If not, I'll help get her out. Deal? Kuroka narrowed her eyes. Why do you want to go to Office? I need to get into the rift between worlds. Someone is using the resurrected shinobi to free Trihexa. Trihexa? Kuroki's ears flattened against his head. The beast of the apocalypse? You know about it? Everyone in Kao's brigade knows. Office-sama is also afraid of his awakening. It will upset the balance of all the worlds. Then she will help? Kuroka thought for a moment, her tails twitching nervously. Perhaps. But first, Chiron. I need to make sure she's safe. Deal, Naruto extended his hand. Kuroka looked at him suspiciously, then shook it. If you lie, I'll scratch your eyes out, Naya. Believe me, that's not the worst threat I've heard this week. Kuroka's portal took them to a familiar space. An endless void with floating islands of land. Office sat on her throne, still small and imperturbable. Naruto Uzumaki, she said in her monotone. You're back. Hello, Chibi Dragon. Have you grown a little? Office tilted her head. I've grown 2 centimeters. Oh, congratulations. Why are you here? Naruto's expression turned serious. Someone is using the spatial rift to create a base. Resurrecting dead shinobi and planning to free Trihexa. For the first time, Office showed emotion. Her eyes widened. Trihexa? But it's sealed on the moon. Apparently, someone found a way to bypass the seal. I need to find their base. Ophis stood up from her throne. Despite her small stature, a wave of power emanated from her that made even Kurama tense. If Trihexa is released, all worlds will fall. Not even Great Red can stop it. Will you help? Ophis nodded and waved her hand. A map of light appeared in the air. There are several anomalies in the rift. 3 points where someone has built structures. One is abandoned, the second. She frowned. The second is hidden from me. But the third is active. Is that it? Perhaps. But be careful. The rift distorts the laws of physics. Your techniques may act unpredictably. What could go wrong? Naruto asked carelessly. You could get stuck between dimensions, get torn apart into atoms, merge with alternate versions of yourself, get caught in a time loop. Okay, I get it. Kurama, ready for an adventure? I hate you. I love you too, Fluffball. Ophis created a portal. This will take you to the third point. Good luck, Naruto Uzumaki. Thank you, Chibi. Kuroka, wait for me in Kuo. We'll visit your sister again. Naya, don't die there. Naruto stepped into the portal, and the world around him exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors. He fell onto the stone floor, barely able to stay on his feet. Phew. Kurama, how are you? Nausea. And that's considering I'm a chakra entity without a stomach. Naruto looked around. They were in a huge room, like a laboratory. Capsules with bodies were everywhere, glowing seals covered the walls, and in the center. This is. In the center of the room stood a massive crystal, something dark and evil pulsating inside it. Even from a distance, Naruto could feel the malice emanating from it. A fragment of Trihexa, Kurama whispered. They use its power to strengthen the reincarnated. Then we're in the right place. Oh yeah, you're definitely in the right place, came a familiar voice. Naruto spun around. A man in a black hooded cloak emerged from the shadows. Kabuto? Okay, I am, but how the hell did you get into this? The figure threw back its hood, and Naruto recoiled. It was Kabuto, but changed. His skin was covered in scales, his eyes were snake-like, and fangs protruded from his mouth. Naruto-kun, he hissed. How sweet of you to walk right into a trap. As for your question, it's me, and you came to me. To my world. When I defeated myself and escaped Izanami, I, like you, was transported to another dimension by the effects of your technique. But not to the past like you, but here. To Earth, with its hell and heaven. I lived and created my plan to take over the world. Kabuto, but what happened to you? Evolution, Kabuto spread his arms. Merging with the power of Trihexa gave me power greater than even Orochimaru-sama. And drove me crazy, apparently. How scary you are. Crazy? Kabuto laughed. I've never been more sensible. Soon I will absorb Trihexa, and a new world will rise from the ashes of the old. And I'm not scary. You just have no taste. Classic villain monologue, Naruto muttered. Seriously, did you all learn from the same textbook? Laugh while you can. Meet my army. The capsules throughout the hall opened. Dozens, hundreds of reincarnated shinobi stepped out. Naruto recognized many of their faces, enemies and allies from the past, all with the empty eyes of puppets. Well then, Uzumaki sighed. And I was hoping for peace talks. Ready to fight? Kurama asked. Do we have a choice? Naruto clenched his fists, and golden chakra enveloped his body. The battle for the fate of the worlds had begun. Naruto looked at the approaching horde of reincarnated shinobi and sighed heavily. You know, Kurama, when I said I wanted to meet old friends, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. What did you expect? A tea party? Kyubi grumbled. The first wave attacked. Naruto created dozens of shadow clones, which scattered in all directions. Rasengan bloomed across the hall like deadly flowers. Edo Tensei, Uzumaki muttered, dodging the water dragon. Kabuto, are you really planning to repeat Orochimaru's mistakes? Mistakes? Kabuto's voice was calm, almost thoughtful. He appeared on the upper tier of the hall, crossing his arms. No, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru-sama made mistakes because he was impatient. Madara failed because he was obsessed. Obito lost because he clung to a dream. Naruto frowned. Something was wrong. Kabuto was too calm. You see, Kabuto continued, watching the fight from above, when I was thrown into this world after Izanami, I realized this was an opportunity. A new world. New powers. New ways to achieve perfection. Naruto knocked out another reincarnated person and looked up. So, did you decide to become the local villain? No, Kabuto smiled. I decided to become a god. I spent the first weeks in hiding. I studied this world. I learned about devils, angels, the fallen. About their wars, their strengths, their weaknesses. He descended slowly, his movements measured. And then I learned of Trihexa. The beast of the apocalypse. A being capable of destroying all worlds. And I knew, this is it. The power I need for absolute domination. He stopped next to a massive crystal in the center of the room, pulsing with black energy. I spent months preparing. I established a base here, in the rift between worlds. I studied the seals of the God of the Bible. I developed a way to reach the moon undetected. And I went to Trihexa, Naruto finished. Exactly. Naruto felt a chill. Kurama, his chakra. I can feel it. It's mixed with something ancient. Something evil. Kabuto ran his hand over the crystal, his eyes glowing with memory. Do you want to know how I did it? How I tricked a being that has outlived the ages? Some time ago, on the moon, Kabuto stood before a colossal seal, glowing with divine energy. The journey here had taken months of preparation, creating a portal, bypassing defenses, sneaking past all barriers. But now he was here. Before the beast of the apocalypse itself. Who dared disturb my peace? The voice was like the grinding of tectonic plates. Every word tore apart reality. Kabuto felt his mind trying to split at the mere sound. But he was ready. Years of experimentation, merging with the sage dragons, testing himself, all of it had strengthened his psyche. My name is Kabuto Yakushi, he bowed low. Oh, great beast of the apocalypse, I have come to offer you my service. Silence. Then. Service? The voice was curious. A mortal worm wishes to serve me? Yes, great one, Kabuto lowered his head even lower. I am not of this world. I possess techniques that do not exist here. I have studied your seal, the work of the God of the Bible. After his death, microcracks appeared. The barrier weakened. I can help you free yourself. And what do you want in return, worthless one? Power, Kabuto raised his head, his eyes burning with ambition. I want to take over this world. Subjugate all three factions. Become the absolute ruler. And for that, I need your power. Trihexa laughed. The sound was so terrifying that the stones around him began to crack. Ambitious worm. I like it. The seal glowed. A thin stream of black energy began to seep out. I will give you a portion of my power. A small one. Just enough so that you can serve me. Build an army. Weaken the seal from within. And when the time comes, release me. But know this, the voice turned ominous. With every drop of my power, you will become more and more mine. Your will, your essence, everything will gradually submit to me. And when the time comes, I will be resurrected in your body. Kabuto accepted the energy, bowing deeply. As you command, my lord. Foolish ancient creature. Do you think I don't see your plan? The pain was unbearable. His cells began to mutate, his skin became scaly, his eyes became snake-like. Kabuto screamed, but continued to accept the power. When the transformation was complete, he fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Thank you, my lord. Very well, my servant. Return in a week. I will give you more power. Kabuto created a portal and returned to his base. There, he spent the next days analyzing the received energy, dissecting it at the molecular level, studying every pattern. Interesting. Very interesting. This power truly is trying to subjugate my will. But slowly. Gradually. I have time to develop a countermeasure. The following weeks turned into a game. Kabuto returned to the moon regularly, playing the role of a loyal servant, receiving new portions of power. And he himself secretly prepared a trap. Every drop of energy was carefully studied. Every control seal was analyzed and modified. Kabuto was patient, he had learned from the mistakes of Orochimaru, who was always in a hurry. I sense, in this world there is someone, from your world. A holder of infinite chakra. Find him. Bring him to me. Kabuto bowed. It will be done. He returned to his base and began his research. He used sensor seals, combing through cities one by one. And found him. In the city of Kuo. A man with incredible chakra control. Kabuto watched him from afar, using shadow clones to track him. Uzumaki Naruto. The hero of the leaf. The savior of the shinobi world. Of all people, Kabuto muttered, watching Naruto prepare ramen in his cafe. I never thought you'd end up here, Naruto-kun. He returned to the moon with a report. Master, I have found the bearer of great chakra. Uzumaki Naruto. Silence. Then Trihexa let out a sound like a satisfied growl. Uzumaki Naruto. The most unpredictable ninja of your world. The one who defeated the goddess Kaguya. I wonder why he's here. Kabuto frowned. You know of him? I observe many worlds through the rifts. His name resounded even through the barriers of reality. His power is enough to free me completely. What do you want me to do? Bring him to me. Use his chakra to break the seal. And then I will absorb his power and be resurrected. Kabuto bowed. It will be done, my lord. He returned to the base, but one thought was spinning in his head. Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto. The one who saved the entire world. The one who defeated the goddess. And Trihexa wants to absorb him. Kabuto stopped in the middle of his laboratory, looking at his hands, covered in scales from the power of the beast. If Trihexa absorbs Naruto, he will become even stronger. Perhaps invincible. And I will remain just a servant. No. No, this is unacceptable. Kabuto began to work feverishly, analyzing every particle of Trihexa's energy in his body. Drawing new seals. Experimenting on himself. 3 days. 3 days without sleep, without rest. Only work. And finally, he understood. He saw a weakness. A pattern. A way to seize control. If I do this now, before Trihexa gets Naruto, I can absorb him first. And then I will deal with Uzumaki myself. Kabuto returned to the moon for the last time. Seals were inscribed on his body, invisible, complex, created specifically for this moment. "Master," he said, "I have studied Uzumaki. I know how to lure him. After the failure with the reincarnated ones. But I need all your power to ensure success. He is too strong." "Wise," Trihexa growled. "Uzumaki is not easy prey. Take all my power. Become a worthy vessel. And then, bring him here." "Of course, my lord. Give me your power." The seal cracked. A colossal stream of black energy rushed at Kabuto. And fell into a perfectly prepared trap. The seals on Kabuto's body glowed simultaneously. The energy of Trihexa was divided, isolated, contained in thousands of micro-containers within his body. "What? What have you done, traitor?" "Used you," Kabuto chuckled through the pain of transformation. "You see, great beast, all this time I have been studying your energy. Every particle of it. Every control pattern. Every weakness." His body began to change, but in a controlled manner. Scales formed geometric patterns, wings grew symmetrically, power was distributed evenly. "Impossible. I have existed for millions of years. I was careful." "Not careful enough," Kabuto stood up, his new form elegant and intimidating. "You were mistaken in one thing. You thought I was simply an ambitious shinobi, hungry for power. But I am a scientist. A master of adaptation and analysis." He created a seal, and the energy of Trihexa completely submitted to his will. "You will pay. When You will not be free," Kabuto interrupted calmly. "Your consciousness is divided and sealed. Your power is now mine. You are no longer the beast of the apocalypse." He created the portal back. "You are now simply a tool for my domination of this world. Trickster. You deceived me." The voice grew quieter, dissolving into 1,000 seals. Kabuto stepped into the portal, leaving the beast's rage and powerlessness behind. He had power now. An army of the resurrected, strengthened by the energy of Trihexa. And the knowledge of Uzumaki Naruto's whereabouts. Everything was ready to take over the world. End of flashback. Naruto looked at Kabuto with new understanding. This man had actually absorbed Trihexa. Outwitted an ancient evil. Impressive, Uzumaki admitted. Cunning. Patient. Orochimaru would be proud. "Thank you," Kabuto bowed his head. "Coming from you, that's a compliment. But there's one problem." "What is it?" Naruto smirked. "You'll still lose." He clapped his hands. Golden chakra exploded around him, forming the cloak of the Sage of Six Paths. The resurrected within 100 meters began to disintegrate, seals breaking under the onslaught of his power. Even with the power of Trihexa, Naruto stepped forward. "You forget one thing. I stopped a goddess. Kagaya Otsutsuki. The mother of all chakra." Kabuto smirked. "That's exactly why I'm not going to fight you directly." He snapped his fingers. Suddenly, the entire hall vibrated. The capsules containing the reincarnated began to open, not dozens, but hundreds, thousands. "You see, Naruto-kun, while we were talking, I activated the final phase of the plan." A portal of enormous size began to form in the center of the hall. Tens of thousands of reincarnated shinobi. All enhanced by the power of Trihexa. And I just sent them in 3 directions. Naruto paled. "Where?" "To Earth," Kabuto grinned. "To Hell. And to Heaven." A simultaneous attack on all 3 factions. A complete invasion. "Are you crazy? This will start a war." "Exactly." Kabuto laughed. "In the chaos of war, I will be able to gather even more data. Study the strength of all sides. Evolve further. And you, Naruto-kun. He pointed to the portal. You choose now. Fight me here? Or save my friends there? Naruto gritted his teeth. Kabuto really had thought of this. Kurama. I know. We have to go back. Madara is there alone. Naruto looked at Kabuto. This is not the end. Of course not, Kabuto smiled. This is only the beginning, Naruto-kun. The beginning of a new era. Uzumaki jumped into the portal leading back to Kuo. See you soon, Kabuto. And then I will knock all your cunning out of you. I look forward to it. When Uzumaki disappeared, Kabuto turned to the crystal. Everything is going according to plan. Soon I will receive data on all the powers of this world. And then. His eyes glowed with black light. Then I will become a god. Madara was walking home after another school day, which, to be honest, wasn't that bad, although he would never admit it, when he suddenly felt familiar chakra. Several familiar chakra. His Sharingan activated on its own. This. Figures began to emerge from the shadows. Dozens. Hundreds. All with red eyes of Edo Tensei. Madara recognized some of them, shinobi from his time, enemies he had once fought. Edo Tensei, he whispered. Kabuto sent them here. The reincarnated began to surround him. Madara assumed a fighting stance. Well then, he chuckled, though inside he knew there were too many. I wonder how many I can knock out before I'm overwhelmed. The first wave attacked. Madara created a fireball and launched it forward, simultaneously dodging kunai. His Susanoo ribs blocked several attacks, but a side blow still caught him. Too many. He needed time to think. Madara leaped onto the roof of the building, but the reincarnated followed him. Some used water techniques, others earth, others fire. Dot. And then a figure emerged from the portal right in front of him. Tall. Muscular. Long black hair. Armor with the Senju symbol. And the Skara, black, like all Edo Tensei. Old Hashirama? Madara couldn't believe his eyes. The god of shinobi looked at him, his face contorted in pain. He was clearly trying to resist the control. His hands rose against his will. Mokuton, deep forest generation. Giant trees exploded from the ground, rushing towards Madara. The Uchiha barely managed to jump back, creating a Susanoo sword to chop it down. But Hashirama was too strong. Mokuton was generated faster than Madara could destroy it. Hashirama, stop it. I'm 14. Madara shouted, dodging the wooden spears. The other reincarnated ones also began to attack. Madara found himself caught between two fires, an army of ordinary reincarnated ones on one side, and the god of shinobi on the other. What a stroke of luck! Madara growled, creating a fireball. This week has been absolutely amazing. He launched a technique at the group of reincarnated men, but Hashirama created a wooden wall, blocking the attack. Then the wooden column rushed at Madara. The Uchiha tried to dodge, but he was too exhausted. The column pierced his Susanoo and struck him in the chest. Madara flew back, slamming into the wall of a building. He coughed up blood. Is this the end? Hashirama slowly approached, his face blank, a puppet under Kabuto's control. Forgive me, friend. He raised his hand for the finishing blow. And then the world lit up with a yellow flash. Hiration, level 2. The wooden column was cut in half. A familiar figure appeared in front of Madara, blocking Hashirama's attack. White hair. Blue armor with the Senju symbol. Madara couldn't believe his eyes. Brat. Tobirama? Tobirama Senju, the legendary second Hokage, turned and smirked. You owe me now, Uchiha. Tobirama, gathering chakra into a fist, through his older brother several meters away. Madara caught his breath. After all, a battle with Hashirama was no joke. He looked around and suddenly froze. Hundreds of thousands of beacons were falling from the sky. He sensed chakra in each one, which meant one thing. They were all Edo Tensei. The sky above Kuo exploded into 1,000 bloody wounds. Portals. Hundreds of portals. Thousands. They opened everywhere, over the rooftops, in the middle of streets, in parks, over schools. And from each one fell figures with dead eyes and glowing seals on their bodies. Edo Tensei. An army of immortals. The first explosion destroyed a bank on the main street. A water dragon the size of a bus slammed into a building, reducing it to rubble in seconds. The second explosion, a shopping mall. A fireball vaporized 3 floors. The third, a school. Earthen spikes pierced the walls like cardboard. People were screaming. Running. Dying. The resurrected shinobi, his eyes empty, launched lightning into the crowd of fleeing people. 5 fell, smoking. Another created a whirlpool, sucking cars and people inside. The city was turning into a slaughterhouse. Naruto materialized in the center of Kuo, and his heart stopped. No. There was inferno all around. Burning buildings. Bodies in the streets. Screams. Blood. Madara. He screamed, his voice cracking with panic. Madara, where are you? Nothing. Only chaos and death. Kurama, I can't sense him. I can't find his chakra among all these dead. Naruto, calm down. Kyubi barked. You can't help him if you lose your head. I can't calm down. Naruto grabbed his hair. He's out there somewhere alone. He's just a child. If something happens to him, I can't lose him, Naruto whispered. Not after I lost everyone else. Then ACT. Kurama barked. Stop standing there. Use the clones. Naruto took a deep breath. Forced his hands to stop shaking. He made a hand seal. Taiju Kage Bunshi no Jutsu. The air exploded. Not hundreds. Not thousands. Tens of thousands of Naruto copies materialized all over the city. An orange wave that flooded the streets. Find Madara. The original shouted. And protect every citizen. No one else dies. The clones scattered like a swarm. Each one received orders, find Madara and save people. Naruto himself jumped onto the roof, activating his sensors to maximum. Madara, please, stay alive. Please. Madara. Barely dodged the water whip, rolling across the roof of the building. His Susanoo rib cracked from the previous blow, his breathing ragged. How many are there? He roared, creating a fireball and launching it at the group of reincarnated ones. 10. 20. 40. They simply didn't end. And somewhere out there, in the chaos, was Akino. Madara dodged the lightning, his Sharingan spinning wildly, predicting attacks. He recoiled, maintaining complete concentration. He formed hand seals, a fleeting thought that it wouldn't work. He thought, to hell with it. Fire release, great fire annihilation. Hellfire erupted and slammed into the group of enemies, but they simply regenerated seconds later. Edo Tensei, how do I kill them? A reincarnated one with a huge sword rushed at him. Madara formed a Susanoo arm, blocking the blow, but the force was so great that he was thrown back. He crashed into the wall, coughing up blood. Too much. But there was no retreat. The school was ahead. Akino was ahead. Madara wiped the blood from his lips and stood up. Alright, dead people, his Mangekyo Sharingan glowed. Want to dance? Uchiha Madara is always ready. Akino stood on the roof of the school, her hands shaking. This is a nightmare. The city was burning. Explosions thundered everywhere. Screams came from all directions. And those creatures continued to fall from the sky. Akino, Rias put a hand on her shoulder. We have to evacuate the students. I know, Akino's voice was tense. But Madara. He's out there somewhere. Alone. Rias pressed her lips together. She was worried too. Not just for Madara, for the entire city. For all the people. This isn't a localized attack. It's an invasion. Organized. Large scale. President. Kiba ran out onto the roof, his face pale. Those creatures have broken into the school. They're killing students. Something inside Rias broke. That's it, her voice turned icy. We're going to fight. Kaneko, Kiba, Issei, Akino, with me. We'll stop them. But President, Issei began. There are too many of them. I don't care. Rias exploded. This is my city. My people. And I will not allow those creatures to kill children. The power of destruction exploded around her. A red aura, so bright that everyone turned away. Rias jumped from the rooftop, straight into the crowd of resurrected ones. By the power of House Gremories. Her voice echoed. I will destroy you all. The red energy exploded. 10 resurrected ones vanished instantly. But 20 more followed. And 30 more. And more. Akino jumped after them, lightning surrounding her body. Holy lightning. The sky tore apart. Golden bolts rained down on the enemies, burning them to ash. But they reformed. Again and again. They are immortal. Akino screamed. How can I stop them? Kaneko, in her Nikomata form, tore at the reincarnated. I don't know, but I won't stop. Issei, with his enhanced gear activated, pierced the enemies with dragon shots. There are too many. Kiba slashed with his swords, his movements perfectly precise, but even he was starting to tire. Bucho, we can't hold out. We need help. And then, as if in answer to a prayer, the sky lit up with orange light. Thousands, tens of thousands, of Naruto copies descended on the city like orange rain. Rasengan. 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 Chakra blasts echoed through the streets. The reincarnated began to fall under the onslaught of the clones. One clone landed next to Rias. Are you alright? Where is Madara? Akino stepped forward, her eyes blazing with despair. We don't know. He disappeared when the attack began. The clone nodded. My copies are looking for him. Stay here, protect the school. Madara, came a shout from below. Everyone turned. Madara, covered in blood and dirt, was breaking through the crowd of reincarnated towards the school. His Susanoo was covered in cracks, but he kept moving forward. Madara. Akino leaped from the roof without thinking. Her wings unfurled, lightning encircling her body. She rained down on the reincarnated around Madara like divine punishment. Get away from him. Golden bolts incinerated 5 enemies. Akino landed in front of Madara, creating a shield of lightning. Akino, Madara gasped. Are you okay? Me? She turned around, her eyes full of tears. You're covered in blood. You're hurt. Why did you go in alone? I was looking for you. Akino froze. Then she abruptly hugged him, ignoring the blood. Idiot. A complete idiot. Madara awkwardly patted her on the back. At that moment, the original Naruto materialized in a flash of yellow. He saw Madara and his face changed. Panic, relief, anger, all at once. Madara. Uzumaki ran up and grabbed his student by the shoulders, pushing Akino away. Thank God. Thank all the gods. You're alive. He quickly examined him. Are you injured? Is something broken? Internal bleeding? Concussion? Sensei, I'm okay. Okay? Naruto's voice cracked. You're covered in blood. There's not a single healthy spot on you. That's not okay. Most of that blood is someone else's, Madara tried to joke. It's not funny. Naruto hugged him tightly, ignoring the blood. Don't ever scare me like that again. Never. Understood? Madara froze, then slowly hugged him back. Understood, sensei. Rias came downstairs, her face serious. Touching. But we have a bigger problem. These creatures. Edo Tensei, Naruto finished, letting go of Madara. A technique for resurrecting the dead. Immortal, regenerating, endless chakra. How to stop them? Kiba asked. Seal them. Or. Naruto frowned. Or kill whoever controls them. Kabuto, Madara growled. If we stop him, the technique will fall apart. Then we must find him. Akino shouted. Naruto closed his eyes, expanding his sensors to maximum. His clones all over the world were transmitting information. He's not on Earth, Naruto opened his eyes. My clones checked. The reincarnated are attacking 3 places at once, Earth, Heaven, and... His eyes widened. Hell. The bulk of them are going to hell. Rias turned pale. What? There. Akino whispered. Rias's family. Who could Kabuto be looking for in hell? Naruto asked quickly. Rias was thinking feverishly. There were many dangerous sealed beings in hell. Ancient demons, fallen angels, heretics. And then it dawned on her. Samuel, she whispered. Who? Samuel. The angel who gave knowledge to people. Her voice trembled. The church teaches that God banished him for giving the apple to Adam and Eve. But that's a lie. The real reason, he discovered the secret of absolute immortality. Everyone froze. Immortality? Naruto asked. Not physical. Samuel discovered the secret of soul regeneration. The ability to be reborn again and again, retaining all his memories, all his power. True immortality. God sealed him not for the apple, for fear. Fear that Samuel would create an army of immortal beings. Naruto and Madara exchanged glances. Kabuto wants to become completely immortal, Madara said. With the power of Trihexa and Samuel's secret. He will become a god, Naruto finished. Invincible. Rias tried to contact Hell through the magic circle. Nothing. Communication is blocked. My brother, my family, her voice trembled. Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder. We'll stop him. Madara, get ready. We're going to hell. Already. We're going too, Akino said firmly. No, Naruto shook his head. You're needed here. My clones are helping, but they need guidance. But... Akino, Madara looked at her. Please. Protect the city. I'll come back. She clenched her fists, then nodded. Promise? I promise. Rias began to draw a magic circle. I'll open a portal to Samuel's prison. But be careful. The portal glowed dark red. A vortex opened, revealing fiery halls. Naruto and Madara stepped inside. The heat hit instantly. Not just warmth, hellish inferno. Naruto and Madara materialized in a huge hall. Rivers of lava flowed along the edges. And ahead, a gigantic gate, as tall as a skyscraper, covered in glowing seals. Samuel's prison. And before the gates stood an army. Thousands of the resurrected. In the center was Kabuto. His hands glowed with black energy. The seals on the doors began to crack. Kabuto! Naruto yelled. Kabuto turned, smiling. Oh, Naruto-kun. How sweet. I was just about to open the gate. Stand back. Or what? Kabuto laughed. Look around. I have an army. The power of Trihexa. And in a minute, the secret of immortality. Madara activated the Mangekyo. This little boy will knock you out. Bold words, Kabuto snapped his fingers. The army rushed forward. Madara. Stand back. I'll handle this. But. That's an order. Naruto clapped his hands. Golden chakra exploded. Cloak of the Sage of the Six Paths, 9 balls of truth. Let's go, Kurama. Yes. Red and gold chakra merged. The form of the nine-tailed beast enveloped Naruto. Everyone. Stand back. Or I will erase you. The army did not stop. Then do not be offended. Naruto disappeared. Materialized in the center of the army. Multiple Cho-Odama Rasengan. Hundreds of Rasengan at once. 300 reincarnated fell in seconds. But thousands followed. Naruto created 9 tails of chakra, each piercing dozens of enemies. By Jidama. The black sphere burst forward. The explosion blew away thousands of reincarnated. A direct path to Kabuto. Now. Naruto lunged forward. His fist slammed into Kabuto's stomach. The shockwave shattered the ground. Kabuto was sent flying, crashing into the gate. Blood from his mouth. Not bad, but not enough. Black scales covered his body. The wings unfurled. Trihexa's power exploded. My turn. Kabuto vanished and materialized in front of Naruto. His claws pierced his golden cloak, piercing his shoulder. Naruto didn't even move, but something else struck him. You broke through the sage's defense? The power of Trihexa tears apart any energy. A blow to the chest. Naruto flew back, breaking through the columns. He rose, coughing up blood. You can't defeat me, Kabuto walked forward. I absorbed the beast of the apocalypse. I am on the threshold of immortality. And you are just a man. Super Cho-Odama Rasengan. A sphere the size of a building, glowing in all colors. Collision. The explosion shook the entire hall. Cracks appeared on the walls. Lava exploded in fountains. When the smoke cleared, both were standing. Naruto was breathing heavily. Kabuto was wounded, but healing. See? I am practically immortal. You can't kill me. Kabuto lunged forward. Claws pierced Naruto's side. Uzumaki howled. Another blow. In the face. More. In the stomach. More. In the chest. Naruto was falling. Blood was soaking the floor. Chakra was flickering. Sensei. Madara shouted, but the reincarnated were surrounding him. Kabuto raised his hand. The black energy was concentrating. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. The blow rushed down, aiming for the heart. And Madara could no longer watch. Something inside broke. Or woke up. His Mangekyo Sharingan glowed. Brighter. More intense. The patterns began to swirl. The left one clockwise. The right one counterclockwise. The world stopped. Again, like with Kokabeel, Kabuto froze in mid-air. The blow stopped a centimeter from Naruto's chest. The reincarnated were statues. The lava stopped flowing. Time stood still. Madara blinked. His eyes burned with pain. What did I do? Only his consciousness was free. Madara focused on the right one. The pattern swirled back. And Kabuto began to move back. The blow was cancelled. He was retreating. More. Madara continued. Kabuto was rolling back. The wounds were disappearing. He was returning to the beginning. His eyes were burning. Naruto was rolling back too. The wounds were healing. The blood was returning. Chakra was regenerating. More, he no longer saw Naruto or Kabuto. Blood gushed like a river. 30 seconds ago. Before the moment when Naruto was in form. Then, he let go. Time resumed. Madara fell to his knees. Naruto blinked. The wounds were gone. Chakra full. Fatigue gone. What? Kabuto was in shock. He stood far from Naruto. The attack didn't happen? How? I won. Naruto saw Madara. The student's eyes were bleeding, but he was smiling. Sensei. I gave you another chance. Use it. Madara spent the last of his strength on this scream, his eyes completely stopped seeing. Naruto understood. Thank you, Madara. He turned to Kabuto. Round 2, freak. This time he didn't hold back. Kurum. All or nothing. Let's show that bastard why they were afraid of us. I just gathered some natural energy for us. Even hell has it. Excellent. Chakra exploded. Not just gold. Not just red. All the power of the 9 Bijou poured in at once. Ashura's avatar form. Ashura, divine fist of creation. 6 arms folded. Energy concentrated. The air cracked. Kabuto tried to run. Too late. The blow fell. Conceptual. Essence attack. Trihexa's black energy began to rupture. The seals cracked. No. I was so close. Energy burst out, separating. Naruto materialized in front of him. He slammed a normal fist into his face. Kabuto flew back and fell unconscious. Silence. Naruto fell to his knees, exhausted. It worked. The reincarnated began to disintegrate. The Edo Tensei was crumbling. Madara collapsed, his eyes clouding over. Samuel's gate remained sealed. The clan palaces lay in ruins. Devils were dying. Surzex fought surrounded. The power of destruction destroyed the enemies. Ajuka created barriers. But they cracked. Falbium teleported the wounded. Seraphol froze the enemies. Suddenly, the reincarnated began to disintegrate. The technique is breaking? Someone stopped the source. Angels fell from the sky. Wings burning with black flames. The reincarnated attacked the sacred ground. And Michael fought fiercely, his sacred sword cutting down the enemies. But there were too many. Gabrielle healed the wounded, her strength depleting with every second. Raphael created barriers of light, but the resurrected passed through them as if the barriers didn't exist. They don't sense sacred power. Michael shouted. They're dead flesh. Suddenly, the resurrected began to disintegrate. Their bodies crumbled to dust. What's happening? The source has been destroyed. Gabrielle gasped. Someone stopped them. The portal opened. Naruto emerged first, carrying Madara in his arms. Akino rushed towards them. Madara. He's alive, Naruto said quickly. Exhausted. Akino took Madara from Naruto's arms, holding him close. Tears streamed down her face. Idiot, a complete idiot, Naruto looked around. The city was in ruins. Burning buildings. Craters in the streets. Bodies. His clones returned, transmitting memories. Each memory a new nightmare. He had forgotten this acrid, terrifying feeling since the time he lost Neji. For the second time, fate had turned its back on him. He had failed to save people again. His heart sank. A year ago, he wouldn't have batted an eyelid, but now he was ready to die for all these people. Suddenly, it dawned on him. What was that? Hope. He looked at the Uchiha, who was covered in blood. Naruto couldn't even imagine how dear this little replica of his past world's killer had become to him. Past? He'd never called the ninja world he'd grown up in the past. He'd always rejected the thought, but he knew deep down that there was no one left in his world. Everyone had become white Zetsu, and there was no hope of salvation. But he felt like right now, right at this moment, looking at the sleeping Madara, he'd finally accepted this fact in his soul and found peace. When Naruto had rolled back 100 years, at some point he'd come to terms with it. Resigned himself to not returning home. Now he'd come to terms with it too. Resigned himself to moving on. And this place wasn't a bad option at all. As long as his former enemies from the past world didn't come looking here. Otherwise, he was definitely fine. That was all. You know, in my head, the ending was tied up so that Naruto and Madara would end up in their own timelines. But after writing this chapter and rereading it, I realized how cool it would have been to leave everything as is. Naruto and Madara have been on this long journey together, and I decided for myself that they should stay together until the end. Smiley face. Their life will continue in Kuo, maybe, and everything will be fine for them, definitely. Thank you. And peace to all.